Looking down at the monitor, I look fat. I'm not fat, am I, James?
Let me have a look down.
Would you
Look
say?
straight ahead. No, I think chubby, but not fat.
Welcome to Poker Night Live. My name's Caspar. Tonight I'm joined by James Browning.
Hi.
How are you, mate?
Yeah, great. I'm still just resting after the last time we were together.
I know, that was intense, wasn't it?
It was great, wasn't
Boys, it's been emotional. How are you? What are you up to?
it? I'm fine. Actually, I'm going to be playing a bit of live poker tomorrow.
Good.
And it's actually, there's a great festival going on. Actually, there's a bit of poker news for you. Actually, you're
Right.
going to be... Actually, you actually will get excited.
Brace myself, hold my fat tummy in.
Right. Okay, I'll build you up to it. But
Okay.
just wait.
All right.
Right, okay.
Bear in mind I'm not wearing a belt.
This week, there's a festival. There's a really great festival on. It's the Western Club. Now, you can find out about that. I've checked it up. And you can go to www.thewesternclub.com. No fancy spellings. Now, tomorrow I'm playing there. It's in a £300 freeze-out.
Okay.
And it's a 2-day tournament.
Good
So
luck.
it'll be a really good structure. And if you go to the site, I was very impressed. You go and click on the tournament, and it'll even give you what the structure is for the tournament.
Is this, by the way, is this the Western Club? Is this the place where you said the first played Hold'em in England? Is this the one in Birmingham?
No, that was the Rainbow. This is the Western Club near
the
Hanger Lane.
A40.
On the A40.
Yes,
and that's
I've
how
heard of
you
this
get
place.
there.
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
if you go to the site, you'll get all the details how to get there.
Okay.
Now, here's the little bit. There's a certain character is coming across to England.
Homer Simpson?
No.
Cartoon character.
He's going to be playing in the main event at the Western Club on the Saturday, which is a £1,500 event.
I've got to guess who he is.
You don't know yet, do you? He's going to be talking about a tournament he's connected with. It's in the Turks and Lagos Islands. That's in September.
Not a clue.
There's a chance. It's a chance. It's not definite, but there's a chance that on Friday he might be in these studios.
Is he a poker player? Is he a famous poker player?
He's won 10 bracelets.
No! I'm not doing it Friday.
Chan.
What? Who's on Friday? Where's the schedule?
Nick's got it.
There's been a schedule breakdown somewhere. Producer, what?
Johnny Chan. Now, he's not 100%, but we're going to do our utmost to get him on the show on Friday. He's going to be taking part at the Western on Saturday, so if you're a fan of his, get along to the Western anyway.
How can you not be a fan of Johnny Chan's?
Anyway, so I know we're going to move everything we can to get him on the show on Friday.
What fantastic news.
So I thought you'd be excited.
The producer's saying it's Nick and Dr. Tom. It isn't. Well, look, that's absolutely fantastic. What a way to kick off the show.
Get Nick a takeaway or something.
Chinese takeaway.
With a little bit of tummy trouble. Cass, I'll take over from you.
That's what I'll do.
Don't tell him about Johnny Chan.
Absolutely. Good.
Because one, if you buy him some food, you'll go yes straight away. There's no doubt about that.
I'll give him some Worcester sauce or something with Sudan 1 food dye in it. That's what I'll do.
Anyway, what do you think of the poker news?
It's brilliant.
I thought
That is
you'd
absolutely
like
brilliant. I mean, I'm desperately excited. Well, I mean, like I said, interviewing Devilfish was one of the best experiences for me, poker experiences, just because these guys have lived it at the highest level. To pick their brains for an hour or so is golden.
I'll tell you what, I must give full marks because I'll give them a little mention because they have put together, I think that's a great idea to get a star coming across for a festival. And it was Bob the Butcher Clark, Andy Pyra, Debbie Clark. They've helped to put this festival together at the Western Club. And so full marks
Is
to
there
them.
a Bob the Butcher?
He is Bob the Butcher Clark.
And we know Bob the Builder.
And we know Bob the Builder.
Are we building up a whole pack of cards of happy families?
All Bobs have to have a middle
a profession,
name.
yeah. And it's got to alliterate.
Barry could have been Bob, couldn't it? It could have been Bob the Bully Martin rather than Barry the Bully Martin.
That's true.
You
I've never
just
thought
didn't
about this.
realise about the game.
I don't know what I'm doing with my time. It's a packed show, as you can imagine. We haven't even started yet.
Right.
And we're already 5 minutes in. Do partake, folks. Tell us what you'd like us to ask Johnny Chan. Get your emails and questions in quickly. Texts. Text the word poker to 84222, 84222. Email the show, poker@PokerNightLive. You know the drill, folks. PokerNightLive.co.uk. Are we going to the website? We can go to the website, www.pokernightlive.co.uk. Join in the forums. Join in the fantastic posts. Watch the comedy double act that is Illiteratum and Zitty R's. Fantastic. Well, after that exciting poker news, we've got to push on with much haste. Let's go around the table, shall we?
Good idea.
Fantastic.
Shall I take you round, Cass?
Please do.
Here we have a 25 cent, 50 cent. Just let me see. No, Johnny Chan hasn't joined that yet.
That'd be brilliant to get Johnny Chan a 25 cent, 50 cent.
And we've got a $5 sit and go. First level, 10.20. And that's the longer structure one there.
Good.
And it's a $2 sit and go. Been quite a few requests for that, and that's the faster structure, 1,000 chips to start with. And green, it's MTT, and it's the classic $10 MTT.
Blue and green.
And we'll be bringing you details of how many contestants, how much prize money, etc., etc.
Should never be seen. Fantastic. And in addition to all of that, James and I are going to try and illuminate you with our commentary, which will no doubt descend into some bloody big arguments at some point. Tonight, I want to get us right to the fundamentals of poker, and I'm sitting next to the right man to help us do it. I want to get to the concept of the decision tree. The decision tree. At some point tonight, we have to tackle the subject of pot odds, because we have had a couple of requests on the forums that said, implied odds, fantastic, all very interesting, fascinating discussion, but let's get to grips with pot odds as well. I think that comes into decision trees, really, because we're going to deal with odds.
And I think that will be interesting, because I think everybody's ready to go a stage further than just the simple, oh, that's 4 to 1, etc. Let's take another look ahead to see if we really are getting the real odds, and we'll be delving into that.
We're pushing you guys. That's what we're doing. It's our job as coaches to make you do the work and really help you raise your game effectively. Watch Poker Night live, learn how to play poker, earn money. That's the key. All right, folks, we're going to go to an MTT. Blue and green should always be seen.
Whoa!
I thought I'd jazz it up a bit, and I thought it worked quite well. So let's see. We've got 112 runners. We've got 168,000 chips in play. We've got a 12-minute clock. And that's created a prize pool of $1,000, 120. First place, $336. All the way down to 10th place, $16.80. I've got a question for you, James.
Yes.
If you enter a $10 multi-table, excuse me, that's my egg fried rice coming back to say hello. If you enter a $10 multi-table tournament, no, it's completely safe. Kickerman's soy. You asked. If you enter a $10 multi-table tournament,
yes.
What do you think is your expectation? In other words, if you enter 1,000 $10 multi-table tournaments, what would you, as a decent player, expect to make per tournament?
Right. Well, obviously, it would depend on how many entrants you had in the tournament.
Okay, so let's keep it really simple. Let's say
otherwise, if there was only 2 people in the tournament,
yes.
Well, then obviously we could say, well, what advantage have I got over this person? How much is the charge for the tournament? Is there enough room for me to make a profit? That's how we would work it out.
But does it?
If there was only 2 of you?
Yeah. So would it different if you were entering 100? Was your expectation different between 100 players and 1,000 players?
Funny enough, the only thing is, it's the likelihood of getting a spread of players. Because let's say you get very bad, bad, quite bad, average, good, quite good, etc., etc. Well, obviously, if there's only 2 players, there's not too much room for the spread of players.
Yeah.
So that's why you'd be able to know exactly where you were. The wider the field, the scattering of players is probably going to hit the percentages slightly more.
Okay, fine.
Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. But so I mean, because I personally think if I enter a $10 multi-table tournament, my expectation, if I do it 1,000 times, it's not much more than $15, $20 per tournament. Do you think it's significantly more?
Right. The next thing is it a rebuy tournament?
Oh, okay. No.
Okay.
Let's keep
so it's a $10 freeze out.
Yeah.
Okay, there's lots of side issues.
Okay.
Right. For $10, it's unlikely, but this is the principle of a tournament.
Okay.
Okay, we look at a tournament, we say, well, how many of the players reach this tournament via satellite?
Right, okay. So that would lower their standard.
That would generally, not in all cases, that would generally lower the standard of the entrance. Okay. So therefore, why I'm saying that is, let's also keep in touch with, say, something like the World Series. And actually, this is actually an interesting analogy, really, because let's take the World Series. Now, a lot of the players, in fact a high percentage of the players probably, are going to be coming via satellites. So therefore, there should be more dead money
Definitely.
in the World Series.
It's ten of the best $1,000 that a professional can spend is to enter the World Series in terms of expectation, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas if we look at the horse tournament in the World Series,
Yes.
50,000 to enter.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any satellites being run for the horse yet. There might be some, but I don't think there'll be very many.
No.
Now the percentage players, and that is going to be amazingly strong quality of players. Be hard to be finding much value in that one.
No, absolutely. So expectation is definitely
So
going by the
now-
standard of players, no doubt about it.
So now expectation, as you said, is governed by the standard of play.
Yeah.
So now one has to look. That's my point. If you were playing a two-person tournament,
Yes.
you might be very lucky because it could be against the worst person in the world.
Yeah.
In which case you could have a very, very juicy advantage because maybe he hardly won any of the tournaments against you.
Sure.
However, on average in a heads-up tournament, 60-40, I think you're doing a good player would be quite happy to win
absolutely.
60% of them.
Absolutely, yeah.
Maybe you get higher ones. Maybe you can get up to 75-25 if you're amazingly good, but I think that's few and far between.
No, I think 60-40 is...
I think 60-40 is a realistic
good
land.
edge, yeah.
Yeah. Right, so now it's very much the makeup of that. It just varies so much. That's my thing here.
Yeah.
So now how do you want to solve this, the makeup of the tournament?
Don't know.
That is the problem.
Well, if we split them up into 10, let's say we've got 100 runners, to keep it
Yes.
simple, and let's say we've got 10 times 10 percentiles. So let's say, we've got 10 guys who, if we played it out, would come in the top 10%, 10 guys, if we played it out, would come in the next 10%, etc., etc. So let's create a completely even spread like that.
Okay. Right, so now, unfortunately, there'll almost certainly be a 10% registration fee.
So we've already lost if we're a break-even player.
Yes.
Yeah.
So therefore, that's exactly it. Because if you did break even, i.e. you had paid after so many tournaments, you just broke level. Of course, you won't be breaking level at all because you've got all those registration fees have eaten away at you. So now you've got to be a better than above average player to break level.
Sure.
That is the nitty-gritty of it.
Yeah. And in fact, you've got to be basically in the fourth tranche of 10 percentiles that we've created, haven't you? You've got to be 10% better than the game, effectively.
You have, yes.
Yeah, 10% better than the average.
And that's, of course, there. You're not really in the land of winning too much there.
No, well, that's what I'm saying there.
Yes.
You're effectively breaking even.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
If you were the 40th best person in that tournament,
yep.
You would break even.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
In the 10% groups.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Wow. So now it's looking quite tough, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So what? Let's just check out what the third level does.
Well, the third level should be making...
Yes?
Caspar launches into a sentence without actually thinking the consequences through. Because what I was going to say was the third level are basically 20% better than the game, minus the rake, they're therefore 10% better than the game. But what that does in terms of position in places is a
No, you don't worry about that.
An oft-argued thing. You do though, don't you, James? Surely
Yeah, but you don't worry about that too much.
No.
That's the second phase.
Okay.
That's the second phase. Basically, you could. I think the way to look at it is to look at their average
Yeah.
as if they had the same talents at the end game as other people initially.
Okay.
Then that average would then be tweaked according to the type of racing car they were.
Yeah.
Are they the sort of racing car who's very good going lap after lap after lap and
Sure.
doesn't have to make any pit stops?
Sure.
Or are they the ones who actually makes pit stops but got great acceleration when they need it?
Yeah, okay.
So we have to adjust to the different vehicle they are.
Sure. Good
But I
analogy.
think initially you just find the average and then
Okay.
you say, but these guys in this section here, they really know how to accelerate for the money. So
okay.
now they might actually overtake a few of the others.
Okay.
It's quite a difficult problem.
It is a tricky problem, isn't it? Yeah,
Isn't it?
absolutely. Because I'm just taking it based on my records that my expectation in a tournament like this is about $15 to $20 profit. And the reason I say that is because it's this old thing of, if someone comes first tonight, if their Aussie Oz comes first, that's fantastic, and it makes him feel great at that time, but he's just got to understand that as a poker player, if he's going to play for a lifetime, that's what you're expecting to make per tournament. You're not trying to make $336 in this tournament.
If you're the best player in the world and you enter a tournament and win it, you've been overpaid.
Right. That's absolutely.
Because it's way above expectation.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Basically, a lot of bets we make in the gambling world just cannot actually give you the correct result. And entering one tournament can't give you the correct result because you can't be so... You lose. Well, you can't be so bad probably that you can never win. And you win a tournament, well, you can't be so good that you're going to win every tournament. So no one result is ever going to... One trial is never going to give you the right result. And that's a very good thing for poker players to remember. If we put a bet on a roulette table on number 13, okay, we're actually 2.7% against us.
Yeah.
Okay, so we put £100 on. So we should lose £2.70.
Yeah.
But we can't. We put the £100 on, we either win £3,500 or we lose £100.
Yes.
No, our true result is minus £2.70.
Yes.
Well, both results are miles away from it.
Yes, yes.
That is a great thing for poker players to remember. Look, trial of one, it just can't find, it's just impossible for it to get the right result.
Tell you what, go on.
Yeah.
No, I've got a great idea for a theme for the night.
Right.
Okay. Ready for this?
Okay.
Okay, if you toss a coin and your bookie gives you even money,
yes.
right, we know that at the end of the day we're getting the true value of the bet.
Yes.
If we toss a coin and our bookie gives us 10 to 1,
yep.
our expectation on that coin toss is £4.50 because 50% of the time we're going to make a tenner, which is £5 profit. 50% of the time we're going to lose a quid, which
yep.
is 50 pence loss. So our expectation is £4.50.
Correct.
Okay. Now, if you place a pound on that coin toss, my argument is, because we're going to hit the long run, we're going to place a lot of pounds or until the bookie closes shop,
yep.
We're not gambling. That's what I argue is the definition of gambling. We're just earning money. Yeah?
Yes.
50% of the time we lose, but because we're making £4.50 a spin, we're earning money in exactly the same way that an insurance company at a casino.
As long as you're not overbetting your bankroll.
Right, absolutely.
Because if you've only got £2, you're overbetting your bankroll.
And that's my point. Okay. Now, let's say someone said, James, you can only bet this once, right? Would you take the bet, right, for £1? Would you take it for £1,000? And would you take it for £50,000? And if you did, whether it was £1 or £1,000 or £50,000, would it be gambling if you only did it once? All right? So what I'm actually asking for tonight, folks, in your emails, is how do you define gambling? This is what I want, is a definition of the word gambling. I want to get lots of thoughts and feelings on it, because when you start to break it down, I've defined 3 definitions of the word gambling. They're all completely different. And I thought I knew what the word meant, and I also thought that I wasn't gambling as a poker player. But here's the question. Are you gambling as a poker player? As a profitable poker player, would you say you're gambling? Do you think it's a usable term that people can mindfully use? Do you want to add anything before we see the texts and emails?
Basically, it's a bit vague because it depends on, when you say about the size of it, it's got to be, are we going to state... What are we going to state any levels for the bankrolls?
No, that's right. That's absolutely. It's actually at this point, yes, yeah, it comes out of your household budget.
Okay.
I mean, if Richard Branson was asked to stake £50,000, again, would he be gambling? He wouldn't think twice about it.
Yeah.
But it does gambling. Is there an element of gambling that makes it proportionate to not just your bankroll, but your tolerance? We're talking about risk tolerance in a way there. But gambling is a word which I've discovered just through some reading I've been doing in the last few days has more subtleties than I actually thought it had.
Yeah.
It's quite an interesting term. So, folks, what is gambling? Do you gamble? Do you consider yourself to be a gambler? Do you think that someone who loves poker has a gambling problem? I would have said 5 days ago no. I still think I err on the side of no. But what we want tonight are your thoughts and feelings about this. And most appropriately, James and I are tonight going to go through the concept of decision trees and understanding when you're gambling and when you're not gambling, by what we would consider to be the classic definition of those terms. Let's have a look at the texts and emails for all your exciting entries and inputs into this discussion. Poker to 84222, that's poker to 84222. And the emails, of course, poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. Poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. And anyone who thinks I'm too theoretical can bog off. It's all right, it's also showing in the afternoons. That was a perfectly acceptable use of the word bog. Let's go to a cash game, folks. We've got one all lined up for your delight and delectation. Here it comes at you.
Here it is. And it's the 25.50. Well, look at this. Both of them have got an 8. How can I get paid, they're both thinking. Or has my opponent got a 10? Let's see what happens. I'm not a minger. Full house, obviously. 3 8s and 2 10s.
James, it's a lovely tie. You don't need to be defensive. What do you... I've got an interesting question for you. Let's just see this hand playing out. So there we go. Amelie takes it. No, did he? Yes. Question for you, James.
He just took him off the hand?
I think it was Bettencourt. I've got a much
All
more
right,
interesting question for you.
Okay.
Now, you are a professional, quotes-unquote, gambler.
Yes.
Right? How do you respond when people use the word gambler? I mean, I've had to deal with it to a certain extent in my life. You've had to deal with it a lot more. What's your response been over the years?
It is gambling, which I do, but I think describing me as a gambler is not a good description. Because although I actually, as you know, I actually have played numerous games, I actually bet on numerous different events, sports. However, I'm also very disciplined. And to put a coin in a fruit machine where I didn't know there was any advantage wouldn't make me feel good.
No.
I'd feel queasy. I wouldn't enjoy it.
A little bit ill.
Yeah, I wouldn't like it at all. And from an early, from a long time ago, with my son, I'd prefer to give him money to play a game with. I'd prefer to give him 10 times as much money to play a game with than him to put money in a fruit machine where he's the underdog.
Yes.
And I'd say, well, I don't want to see you do that.
When you say game, James, what do you mean, marbles?
A fruit machine or one-armed bandit or whatever. If he was in a fairground,
okay, so
I'd prefer him to play a boxing game, a racing game,
right.
Football game.
Right.
Fine, play a game, video game, no problem.
Right.
I want to put money in this fruit machine. Oh, look, you can't win at this in the long run.
Right.
I'd rather you didn't do it. I'll tell you what, I'll give you 5 times as much money and you can go and play a game with it. Then you'll make me feel ill watching you lose. I don't like to see you lose. I like to see you games where you can win. I don't like you to go where in the long run you're going to be a loser. I don't want him to be like that. So I take it that far.
Yeah.
Because I think, and now I'm happy for him to look at poker because I know that is a game which is a mixture of luck and skill. And I believe that in the long run, skill is a determining factor.
Yes.
So I'm very happy if he looked at a game like that, or if he looked at a game like backgammon, where it's a fun way for him to learn his maths. And in the long run, with patience and discipline and study, you can and should become a winner.
You said something very interesting there, which I want to pick you up on. As we see 2 players playing with jacks, let's have a look at this. It's often a laugh. See who bullies the other one off, if indeed anyone does. Oh, I'm not having a moves all in. We'll back to a call, like a shot. And there we go, it's just played out now. Unless we see another diamond, it's a split pot. And they'll take it down. Okay, you used a very interesting word there. You said, and I quote, I believe poker is a game of skill. And I'm going to pick you up on the word believe. Because...
well, that was just me being polite. I know that poker is a game of skill.
Okay, let me just challenge that, and you know that I wouldn't, you know what my ultimate conclusion is myself personally. Pre-flop folds there, Baskerville folding 84% of the time, playing very, very tight, but Robo Squirrel preferring the loose game. Let's have a look at it in a minute and see if Robo Squirrel is benefiting from the juicy implied odds that he can get from that loose game. What do you make of something that Mike Carroll himself has put forward, and which I think is kind of indisputable in a way, in that it never truly breaks even in the long run? In other words, you know, if you get your luck in the $1,000 buy-in that you saved up for, you won a satellite for, then that'll never break even. It'll never break even for the lottery winner or the person who doesn't win the lottery. You know, life is too complex to ever truly break even at the poker table. I mean, in my public talks, I always go, if you think poker's gambling, understand this. There are 2.5 million possible 5-card hands. If you think that's a lot, try life. Yeah. But even at the poker table, given that you're going to be playing different people, different levels, different situations in your life, do you think it breaks even, and therefore do you think that luck will always play a role?
No, of course luck plays a role, and I agree with Caro completely. It can't possibly break even, luck, because let's take one example. Let's say that you go for the rest of your life, and let's hope you live to a nice, ripe, healthy age.
I doubt it, mate, to be honest with you.
But no,
I appreciate the thought.
You're avoiding the sort of dodgy bits in the food, so you might have a chance. No, let's hope you do.
I'm off Far East soon, so.
And you go and enter the World Series for the rest of your life.
Well,
how can luck even out there? It's not a long enough trial. No. We talked about trials before. OK, you play for 20 years. How can 20 tournaments be a long enough trial? It's rubbish. It's nowhere near. Listen, I know in my own poker life, so far, I haven't had the best of luck in the massive tournaments.
Right.
I've been on the edge of the £1,000 tournaments a lot of times, ooh, and the big hands have not held up. Aces against ace 10. What a time for that to die. Okay, my aces against ace 10 in the £50 tournament held up and I won the tournament.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I went and won first prize of 5,000. But if it held up in the £1,000 tournament, I go and win a first prize of £50,000 or whatever, etc.
Yeah.
So where you get the luck is also going to give more fluctuations. So I have to agree with that. So, but the moral to this tale is, is that the majority of our play has to be at the level where we can reproduce the game at the same level, so the luck then has a chance to even out somewhat.
Yes. Okay.
And that will give us the indication of whether we're capable of winning or not. Now, when we go and have our little, oh, I want to play the World Series once in my life, or whatever it is, or I've built up for this big one, if I could only, fair enough. You're buying a lottery ticket. This could change your life. Great, it's exciting. But be aware that luck is going to be the predominant factor, because how many $10,000 tournaments are you playing in your life? Not enough.
So I just want to absolutely clarify this because Mark and I have had this discussion a couple of times. When we use the word luck, and I think a better word for it, well, it's not an interchangeable word, but when we say luck, what we're saying is the inability to reach the long term. Because in the long term, luck by definition, that's the whole definition of the long term, has evened out. And what we're saying is that in tournament play, in 20 years of 10,000 entry World Series of Poker with 5,500 runners, you can't possibly hit the medium term. If you could live to be, and it would literally be 100,000,
yeah.
you know, then you could
get a far truer result.
Right. And so what we're saying, folks, this is a statistical fact. If you can imagine a graph with a line that goes down, the line that goes down is representing the role that luck is playing in any given game. The line that goes up over time is representing the role that skill is playing in any given game. And what's interesting is that there's a line where there's a point where those two lines cross each other, and that is what we call the medium term. Yeah.
I don't think you should shy away from the word luck. Luck is there.
I don't like it, I'll be honest with you. When I asked you the question and used it, I didn't like it.
In the short run, luck is the predominant factor. I'm sorry, it is.
Yeah, no, but do you want, James? Fine, that's okay, but I actually don't think that using the term is helpful. And I'm not saying that the concept, I'm not saying that it is a very boring point of semantics, but my point is, I'm not saying that the concept, the point that you're making isn't correct, right? But in the communication process, it's important that people make the right inferences from what you're saying.
Yes, but
and luck is a very loaded, ambiguous term that actually people interpret incorrectly.
But there's a nice end to the story, because in the long run,
everyone goes to their dictionaries.
Skill is the determining factor.
I understand that. No, I know that.
That's the nice answer to the end.
You know that you and I are not disagreeing about what we're saying. Our underlying points are completely in harmony, because we both understand it. What I'm saying is, when we're trying to communicate it to people who have not sat down and thought about it for 5 years, or in your case, how many years?
Well, I've been a pro for over 25 years.
25 years.
Longer.
You know, this is no offence to the people who haven't done that. You know, we've all been in that situation. We've all struggled with these almost philosophical concepts in the early parts of our poker life. I don't think the word luck is very helpful. Okay. I go and I talk to businesses and I say to them, don't use the word risk. Right? And do you know why I say that? Because you've got two businessmen, right? And they're sitting deciding whether to invest in this company or buy this piece of software, right? And one of them will say, oh, it's very risky. And what he means is the stakes, the actual cost of this investment or this piece of software is very high, right? And he says it's very risky. And the other one will go, no, it's not very risky at all. And what he means is the probability of success is very high, right? And he's saying it's not a risky decision. It might be expensive, but it's not risky. So you've got two people using this word risk, and it's an ambiguous term. They're using it to refer to completely different things. One guy's using it to refer to the cost, the stakes, and the other guy's using it to refer to the probability of success. So I say, don't use the word risk because your conversations will get confusing. The reason I'm advocating not using the word luck is because you ask a group of people, you ask a group of 10 people what they understand by the term luck, you'll get 10 different definitions. They'll say opportunity meets preparation, they'll say fate, they'll say the role of God in our lives, they'll say that which you can't control. People use completely different definitions of the word luck. You might have one which you know is the truth and that you agree on, but using it in a sentence I don't think is helpful.
I am not shying away from it. I'll tell you why. Because I celebrate the luck in the games.
I know, but that's because you understand what you mean by the term.
But why do I celebrate it?
It doesn't matter what you feel about it. What I'm saying is you're celebrating something which you understand, and you might be celebrating something that's completely different to what they understand by the term.
Right, I'll tell you why I celebrate it. I celebrate it because this is what makes people keep on playing.
I know, I understand. I
celebrate it because one of the things of the game is being able to withstand the bad luck.
I completely agree.
And also, I celebrate it, and you should be aware of it, I think, because this is what tells you I have to play within my bankroll because of this word called luck.
Okay.
And therefore, to sugarcoat it and get rid of it is not for me. I want that a name luck to be there. So you say, okay, I know I'm good, but I could get unlucky, so I better not go to this game I can't afford.
And you know what? I would say, you say, I have to play within my bankroll because of this thing called variance. And that, I think, is a much better word to use in that sentence.
Okay.
Because that's what it is. I think it's
want
variance.
it to be there as the big bad monster to remind me of what can happen.
See, Big V sounds a lot better than Big L. The first position call from Robo Squirrel with aces. What do you think of that in a cash game, James? How often are you likely to call in first position with aces?
I was still thinking about Big L and Big V.
Big V's better, mate.
What? You just flat called it?
Just flat called from first position?
I don't know what the game's been like. Has it been passive, aggressive? I don't know. I mean, if it's been...
Not too aggressive.
If it's been very passive, maybe he's finding a way to get some action with his aces.
Yep.
So I don't mind.
Yep, okay.
If it's very, very aggressive, I don't mind it either, because then he can think someone's going to raise me. So either extreme, it works well. If it's a sort of a middleish sort of game, that's probably where it's not right.
Right.
So very passive, very manic.
Yes.
Is probably a good time for limping.
Yes. Okay. What do you think? This word pass... Ooh, look at that. Poor old Robo. That's a horrible outdraw there, isn't it? How do you think he can ameliorate this loss?
Well...
Can't get away from that, can he, James?
It's very tough, except he's really thinking it. I think he's thinking he's clicked the jack.
Do you think you can say that? Do you think when this guy comes up betting? Well, yeah, he has done.
I think he really can. Well done.
That's a good laydown as far as I'm concerned.
But I think at the end there, the way the betting had gone, he suddenly thought, what's excited him about that card? It just shone out a little bit.
Yeah. Good stuff.
A good read.
Yeah.
But I think it was, as I said, I did think it was readable. So.
When you say passive table...
Yeah.
Actually, passivity is quite a weak thing, an interesting thing. You know, we have this phrase...
Are we allowed to use the P word or not? That's what I want to know.
You can use the L word if you want to, mate. I'm just saying to you, people won't understand you sometimes.
I might use the V word then if I'm on with you.
I would. I would. I've got nothing against your opinions on the V or the L word. It's just the use of the word.
Okay.
What was I saying?
Passivity.
Yes. You said if it was a passive table,
then
he might want to smooth call.
This looks passive.
Yeah, but it actually, if he raises and everyone's fold, that's the opposite of passivity, isn't it? Because passivity actually means calling, doesn't it? That's weakness. If everyone folds to a raise, that's not necessarily a passive table. That's this word type weak, and we don't really have a word for that actually. The fact that people will fold because they're just scared of something. It's not tightness in the strict sense of the word, but it's not about passivity or aggression, is it?
Well,
tightness is a person's propensity to play, and then there's a word that we don't have for people's reactions to any kind of raise.
I tend to think of a game which is passive, is where you get quite a lot of people lying in the long grass.
Do you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Trying to. They're wanting you to make the moves, or they're trying to really find a really big hand before the play. So they're sort of tight weak, really, in a way.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay. Or type. I wouldn't say that's necessarily weak. I mean, Tiger in the long grass can be quite a.
Oh no, it's a good profitable. But I'm saying, but if you always do it all the time, it's not a good idea, because a good player will just know what you're doing.
Prof plays tight weak, doesn't
he? Yes.
No, not quite tight weak. I mean, he's Tiger in the long grass all the time. Right. Sorry, Prof, if you're watching, you're not tight weak.
He's on the internet now.
Is he?
Yeah.
He doesn't play
Prof
live?
from Newcastle, is it?
I know, I haven't seen him for years.
No, he's all right.
Yeah, he's all right. Does he still play live at all?
Still playing bridge as well.
Really?
Yeah. But to me, already this has the marks of the moment. I can see we've got John Boy Rebel there, who we know isn't passive, but there seems to be quite a bit of limping going on. Limping with strange hands. That, to me, is quite passive.
That's passive. Oh, yeah, no, that is passive. But let's say someone raises, right, and everyone else folds. Actually, that's not necessarily passive, because passive would imply, you know, whatever your frequency. There's another word, I think, which means that as soon as everyone raises, the gap becomes massive, or the gap becomes massive, and everyone folds to it. And maybe that's this word weakness. Type weak.
Again, it'll depend, for me, it would depend on, of course, how big the raise was, because this is the decision they're having to make according to what odds they're getting for calling the raise. So, obviously, if someone raises 7 times the big blind, well, it would make sense to pick your moments to fight him, because you wouldn't need to be right too many times to end up winning a nice lot of money.
Sure.
You don't need the variance of playing a guessing game if he's got the big hand or not.
Yeah.
So now I would recommend being selective.
Yes.
Because he's already cranked up the volume. He's made this a possible big pot. Yeah, of course, be selective and kill him off in one go, hopefully.
Let's say you're in the big blind, James.
I am.
And you've got king-queen. And someone in really early to middle position raises. And it's folded round to you. And they raise 3 times the big blind. Do you call?
One, I'd look at the play to see if I knew anything about him. If he was if I knew what his window of hands was, this would determine my decision.
For window, we sometimes use the word basket, don't we? Basket, window. Yeah.
Okay, same thing. But more times than not, I would probably just put it down.
Okay. Now,
because I'm out of position with a hand which could well be up against one of the hands I hate, like ace king, ace queen, aces, kings, queens, all which are disasters for me.
Okay.
And also, there's not too many hands which are brilliant for me to be against. Underdog against pairs, out of position again. Awkward. I can find better spots for my money.
Okay, good. Now, that was contingent upon what hand you've got and what window of hands you're putting him on.
Yes.
And therefore what your overall expectation is from that call.
If I know he loses a goose, oh, well, then I can get into this one, no problem.
Right, so that's really important. So even though you know that you're getting 2 to 1 on this call, he's raised 3 times the big blind. You've put 1 bet in, he's put 3 bets in. There are 4.5 bets in the pot, including the small blind. And you've got to put 2 bets in. So you're getting 2 to 1 on your bet.
My problem is, I do think I win quite a few hands here, but never quite know where I am.
Right.
So I don't win big pots, and then I will get caught on some there where I lose the pots I lose more money than the amount of money I win on the ones where I win.
I understand. Okay.
That's a problem.
And
so that affects the ratio of hands that I need to win.
Yes.
To make this a profitable situation.
Okay.
And it keeps on screaming at me, I'm out of position and a troublesome hand.
Yeah, okay. Now,
the sort of hand, and the way we can think about it is, it's a sort of hand when you're sitting there with ace queen, you're, oh, go on, have king queen, go on.
Yes.
Queen, oh, go on.
Yeah.
Because you know that person often pays you off.
Yes. So of the window of hands, he could have ace king, in which we're screwed. He could have ace queen. He could have
aces.
He could have aces. He could have kings. He could have king queen. Yes, queens. He could have king queen.
He can, yeah.
But of all of those hands,
you probably don't make. In fact,
well, he's got position on us.
You're underdog against his king queen.
Yeah, because we're out of position. Yeah, absolutely.
Because you can actually bet when you've hit your flop, and he can raise you. Oh, and you probably have to put that down.
Yes.
So you can actually lose. You're in a dead heat with a guy, and you can lose quite a chunk if he plays it aggressively against you.
Yeah. And if he's got ace 10, ace jack, he's still a favourite over us.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if he's got any pair.
Now.
Any pair.
Any pair. Yeah, absolutely. But if there are people sitting at home saying, yes, but if he's got ace jack or ace 10, surely you're getting the correct pot odds to call. Let's just go through why they're saying that, because they're saying...
Against an average hand, you are.
You're getting 2 to 1 on the call, and you're only, 1.7 to 1 underdog from first, if you've got second and third against first and fourth, and you're a 45-55 underdog if he's got a lower pair. So they're saying surely you could get the correct pot odds. If you put all of those hands together in the basket, however, would you still be getting kind of borderline pot odds to call with king-queen?
I think if you just look at the odds and not look at the outcome of the hands, you are getting the odds. But I just believe, when I'm playing a cash game in No Limit Hold'em, I like to play, when I play pots, I like to play them very aggressively.
Yep.
I like to play to win some big pots.
Yep.
And I like to know exactly where I am.
Yep.
So therefore, I will shy away from the grey area decisions.
Yes.
I mean, because why should I be having to scratch my head what to do, wonder where on earth I am, be restricted, trying to keep the pot low because I'm not quite sure if I'm winning or not. I mean, wow, what a nightmare.
Yes.
I would rather be playing a hand where I can go full steam ahead.
Okay.
Or I would rather play king, queen in an unraised pot, where when I hit my king or queen, I think, very good chance now I think I'm a good favourite.
We're not going there again, you know that, don't you?
But I think then I'm good favourite.
Yeah,
I'd
absolutely.
rather save it for that.
Let's have a look at this. King Jack versus Queen Jack. Of course, they don't know what each other has in this game. They both hit their jack, so the Queen Jack's going to be in a bit of trouble here. Let's see if they can get away with it. It's one of the most difficult situations in poker, isn't it, James?
It is.
When you're in such a marginal hand. Both of you have behaved exactly the same. So in other words, you don't have a read on the other player that he's massively different to you, but you are just out-kicked.
And he's raised the Queen Jack.
Yeah.
Well, at least he's trying to find out where he is,
That's
which
right.
is good.
Will he respond to the...
And he's just called. Well, I think Potty Dotty knows exactly where he is now. This is now a very dangerous flop, isn't it? Because...
Yeah, but interestingly, that king does help Big Tunfula, doesn't it? Because it makes him wary of the
it could have
possibility
already
of Potty
given
Dotty having
his
overcards.
opponent a straight already.
That's right.
It could have given his opponent 2 pair. And...
if the turn had been a 6, I think Big Tunfula may have lost
this.
more money. Oh, he's going to lose a lot of money now. That's a great shame.
well, he'll be frightened of the ace, actually.
They both will, maybe. Yeah. So in actual fact, I was wrong that the Queen would affect Big Tunfula adversely. In actual fact, it helped him minimise his loss on the end there by scaring Potty.
It did, yeah.
What do you
I
think
wonder
that is?
if Potty was checking and calling. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, I think
when
he
I
was.
look at that, I'm saying I hope you were check calling.
Yes.
there.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure he was.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's
Oh,
the
I mean, I
question.
can't speak
But in
for him
that
completely, but-
situation, that's what I'd be asking.
Okay. Good stuff. I'll tell you what, James. We've got a load of emails now to get through, so I'm going to look at these. But in the beginning of part 2,
Yes.
I'm going to ask you 2 more questions. Right? I'm going to keep you king queen in the big blind. All right.
Okay.
I'm going to then say there's a raise from late position. Yeah. And then I'm
What
going to
position?
give you
Cut off, big blind.
just one before the cut-off, let's
One
say.
before the cut off.
Yeah. Do you think? Do you want to answer 2 different things for one before cut-off and then actually on the button as well? Would you do different things? Would it change your?
It could do.
Yeah. Okay. And then I'm going to give you. Well, let's do the king queen hands first. So we'll do those 3. We'll do those 3 sections. We'll do these 3 sections first of all, and then we'll break down a decision tree for why you're making that decision.
Okay.
Okay. Excellent. Right. Well, listen, we've got a first email here from Hedge in Croydon on the definition of gambling. So fantastic stuff. Thanks very much indeed, folks. For those of you that weren't tuning in, you should have been. He says, "Hi guys. My original opinion when I began playing poker a year ago was that it was gambling, pure and simple. Since learning new skills on how to play poker, I've discovered that it is much more a skill game than a game of luck. But the simple fact is, and you can say it yourselves, that at the end of a tourney, it's simply a crapshoot. You surely cannot deny the fact that apart from bluffing, which cannot be maintained successfully over every hand," he says, okay, we'll break that down later, "the luck of being dealt good cards is massive. And finally, you cannot get away from the fact that the reason everyone plays poker is we put a certain amount of money down to win a larger sum. This is gambling, period. And if you can persuade my mum and girlfriend otherwise, my hat is off to you. Okay, get ready with your hand on the brim, James Browning. Is it gambling to put a certain sum of money down in order to win a larger sum? Isn't that what business does every day? That's called investment in my book.
I can see his points regarding the end of a tournament.
Oh, I can see his points.
Fast structure, yes, it certainly feels like gambling there because you've got to have the guts to suddenly push all your chips in the middle. You are relying on hitting some good cards, etc., etc. Playing tournaments, as far as I'm concerned, especially if you play, the bigger the field, the more fluctuations you're going to have in your results. You know, you're going to have less fluctuations playing sit and goes because they pay out 3 prizes. suppose on this channel here, it's out of 8 players, 3 prizes. Well, that will definitely cut down your fluctuations because you should be hitting the top 3 quite regularly. Even in 10-seater, not too many fluctuations there. Because they're paying 30% of the field in a 10-seater even. Whereas in a regular multi-table tournament, they're certainly not paying that much of the field. They might be paying, say, 10% of the field nearer. Perhaps a bit more, maybe 15. Those are the fluctuations, but it still doesn't mean to say that you're gambling, because you've now just got to look at these in the long run. And as long as you're playing for the size of money which you can keep on pulling up every week, keep on playing, and you're playing well, you will end up making a profit. For me, I play a lot of cash games, and there it feels even less like gambling to me, because I just know how my ups and downs go, and luckily enough, it's pretty smooth. Okay, I'm bound to have losing sessions, but over a long, long period of time, well, let's put it this way, I've been gambling for well over 25 years, all different types of gambling, and I've never had a losing year, so that's quite smooth.
Do you mean smooth as in smooth and silk, or smooth as in smooth bankroll? You're smooth in both ways, James.
Smooth. No, but that's a pretty good test for me. That's over 25 years. That's playing games of luck and skill. Backgammon, blackjack, poker, and I've never had a losing year. So that's a pretty good trial. Here's
what I would say, Hedge, to your mum, your girlfriend and yourself. Business works like this. Someone has an idea that they can sell the promise of something to someone, and it doesn't matter whether you're selling Volvos or Domestos, you're essentially selling a feeling, be it the feeling that your house is cleaner or the feeling that you're driving in a safe way. And you go to a group of people and you say, I need you to put money into this. You may go to a bank, you may go to your mum, you may go to your own bank account, but you take money, it's called capital, and you make an investment in something. And usually at the point of the investment, you have no income. And then on the grounds of that investment, depending on the strength of your idea and the strength of your promise, and the underlying fundamentals of you may take a return from that investment. Sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't take a return from that investment. Venture capitalists will generally reckon on 8 out of 10 of their projects failing because the 2 that succeed go up in the air. So that doesn't sound too different to me to the concept of poker. Whether you like it or not, when you play the game of poker in exactly the same way as a casino, offering the game of roulette, you are offering the promise to someone else that they can make money. And hopefully that they can make money in a fun way. This, incidentally, is the reason why people who criticise people and swear in the chat box are idiots, because they're actually making the game less fun. Sometimes, not always, sometimes they're good to laugh at for the people that are playing with them. And in doing so, they're shooting themselves in the foot because they're not offering that promise. Casino does all it can to offer the promise of winning, and in exchange for selling that feeling, you take a commission or edge from doing so. Is a casino gambling, Hedge? When it says come and play roulette, every time you bet black, it's effectively betting red. And just under 50% of the time, in fact, just under 50% of the time, it's going to lose to you. But just over 50% of the time, it's going to win. And it's going to win because of the value of the little single zero and the double zero, which gives it a 2.7 or a 5.4% house edge. So, is the casino gambling?
2.7 or 1.35. We're in England, only 1-0.
Yeah, I know. But if you're in America...
Oh, you're in America?
I'm playing America.
You're playing America.
Yeah,
just
double zero.
Keeping them right.
Yeah, 5.4%. It was really funny when the Monte Carlo in Las Vegas offered single zero roulette. People still played in the other casinos. Yeah. Genius. Yeah. They've got it all sorted out. That's why I invaded Iraq. So I would say that, if you're gambling, then a casino is gambling. And I'll tell you something, Hedge. I don't know if you've been to the MGM Grand, but it doesn't conform to my stereotypical image of a compulsive gambler. It's not a bearded man sitting on the street corner with a cup. It's $1 billion investment, which incidentally made its money back in about 3 years. So gambling's an interesting word, isn't it? I don't think we sorted it out, and I don't think the word period at the end of the sentence is completely accurate, but I do appreciate your email. It's a good email. So listen, folks, get your emails in. What is gambling? Do you gamble? Do you have a gambling problem? Do you know someone who does? In the break, we'll be putting up Gamblers Anonymous helpline. We won't. Hi, folks. I'm playing internet poker. But I just want to read an email out from Zitty before James takes over for the Beat the Presenter part of the show. It's a really lovely email. Thank you, Zitty. He says, evening, guys. Use whatever words you like. I've been, and then he swears a bit, lucky to have been able to watch these recent shows. Thanks. Well, thank you, mate. That's really, really kind of you. And it's obviously a pleasure to do them. I hope you're benefiting in some way. That said, James, I'm going to play some internet poker. Would you like to man the fort?
I would do. Which ones of these have you read out, Cass, so I can just see where I am?
I've read Scott Clark. You can read Jimbot and John and Rob.
Okay.
And we've just done Zitty.
Lovely. Fine.
All right, mate.
Just so I know where I am.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure.
Play well.
Thank you.
Okay, let's have a look. Jimbot, we'll have one. We'll have a quickie there. Oops, a quickie? None of these are quickies, I think. Keep up the good work, boys. Some advice, please. I was playing in an MTT earlier today where the prize money went to 10 places. With 11 players left, I was in 10th spot and on a table of 6. There was a runaway leader, but not a great deal between places 4 to 11. I had noticed the guy with the marginally smallest stack had gone all in on at least 8 times in the previous 10 rounds of play. Really annoying. He didn't say that, but I thought it was. He had only been called twice. The first time sharing the pot when his ace-2 was called by ace-ace and a 2-3-4-5 board landed. And on the second occasion scoring lucky when his king-2 against king-jack found a 2 on the river. The next time he called all in, I held pocket 5s, not the greatest hand, but with the idea that he was calling all in with virtually anything, I thought it was more than likely well in front, and if I took his stack, would be propelling myself into a comfortable 4th spot. Sure enough, he turned over ace-3, making me a massive favourite. Well, probably about 11 to 4 on, I think. 2 aces arrived on the flop, and I was all but out. I realised this was just unlucky, but what I want to know is, did I do the right thing in reasoning this way and going all in, or should I have waited for one of the larger stacks to knock him out and ensuring that I at least reached the prize money in the process? Okay, this is quite an interesting email here. This is a situation here where we've got one guy who's got a chip leader who's got a lot of the chips, and we've got a gaggle of players who are sort of all pretty evenly matched. But this is the low stack who kept on surviving. Basically, the thing is here, you've got to really tell us what the breakdown of the prizes is, because you said there were 10 places. Well, is it a heavily weighted tournament? Or is the prize money heavily weighted to the top 3 places? In which case, we don't have to be fighting to try and come 10th, because that isn't our main aim. We still are aiming to get in the top 3. So let's say a lot of the tournaments are heavily weighted towards the top 3 places. So if that is the case, you still basically just have to play poker. You've tried, you've survived for quite a long time there. You've given this guy quite a few chances to get exterminated, and it hasn't happened. He's kept on surviving. Listen, you made a bet there, didn't you? It was such a long email, I think, yes. The next time he called all in, I held pocket 5s. Yes, so you made a move. You were on the right side of it. I think you did nothing wrong at all. In the end, you decided, you know, your chips, you're probably not so chipped up yourself. You saw a situation. You obviously read the situation pretty well because no one else called you. And it's often a right time to make a move there because people are overly concerned about reaching the final table. And because of that, this gives you a chance to take advantage of this, be the contrarian, and push a few more bets out there. You have more chance of winning because your fold equity has risen because they want to get to the final table. So you're taking advantage of the situation. So at the end of the day, unlucky, but I think you played well. Okay, let's go to a $5 sit and go. And here it is. It's at the first level. It's the first hand. It's fresh. Fresh as a daisy. Puck Jr. on the small blind and Coink on the big blind. Calvin came. Glad about that. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had a full complement of players. Flat call from Albert there with ace-6. Small blind makes it up. Cass is a serious chatter here. He's even moved his keyboard to the centre so he can actually type quicker. Coink here. Do you realise, Coink, the time it's taken you to make your decision, Caspar's written 14 lines of chat.
Do you know what? I don't think I'm a fast typer, and everyone's going on about this.
You make a lot of noise when you do it.
Make a lot of noise, yeah.
Yeah. You're a very noisy typer, yeah.
Been told off for that.
Oh, it's funny. Now, I hadn't heard that, but there you are. You'll be told off again. But I am not going to be harsh with you because you bought me a Red Bull.
I did.
So you can't do any wrong.
I think you'll find it's called a high-energy drink on television.
Oh, no, not the drink. I'm talking about the little Red Bull you bought me. It's quite nice. Got sort of like a matte finish on it.
Do you know when you eat a steak,
tail.
it's made of bull, not cow? Do you know that?
Oh.
It's a true story. Do you know how much a bull sells for at market?
No.
About £1,500.
What about an Aberdeen Angus bull?
Don't know, it wasn't in Aberdeen, it was in Wales.
Well, this is moving very slowly. Now, if this is an internet problem or not, we'll give this a bit longer, but it's getting frustrating.
Perhaps they're thinking, James. We could bang on about people should spend more time thinking, and then someone spends time thinking, you shout at them. That's ironic, isn't it?
It is ironic, but I have a feeling it's not thinking going, oh, here it is, okay. To be monitored. Well, interesting here, we've got two ace queens we can see. Royland.
Is that the Grange Hill character?
Yes. In position 6.
You have to be 30 to understand that.
Well, definitely slow. Yep, just calls. Puck Jr., same hand. Are we going to see escalation of the stakes? Yep, it's a flat raise to 40. Got rid of the small blind. Big blind calls with 3-5. And it's a re-raise, a flat re-raise from the other ace queen. This is quite amusing. What happens next? The ace queens could keep on doing this and keep on trying to whip Calvin Kame's money. But of course, it's gone the other way, and the 3-5s hit the flop.
What do you think of flat re-raises before the flop, James?
Flat re-raises. The first level of a sit and go, I would excuse it.
Just as a pot builder?
But
that's precisely what it's doing, isn't it?
Well, not even just as a pot builder, just as me saying, listen, I've got a good hand, but I'm containing the size of this pot.
Okay.
And he was out of position, but he's just put a little fear of into his opponent. So I don't mind it, especially early stages, because I just don't think that you should be, when the blinds are so small initially, and people do try and wait for some big hands in these early stages, I think you have to have an element of caution there, otherwise you could get caught.
Okay.
And later on, as you can see in a sit and go, the type of hands people play with varies greatly. But there's quite a few characters wait here trying to just play big hands, obviously.
The Kiddie Kid. That was
Who?
a shout out.
Oh.
If you watch Radio 1, you'll know what I mean.
Who talks about the kiddie kid?
No, they talk about shout outs.
Oh, shout-outs. I know what shout-out
Do
means.
you?
No, yeah, of course I do. Give someone a shout. I gave the Western a very good shout tonight.
Yeah, well, that's true.
And Johnny Chan.
Yeah.
But who's the... Oh, Kiddie Kid's just the player in your game, I presume.
He's an observer, actually, but he wanted a shout out. And,
Hi, Kiddie Kid.
We're here to help.
Cheer Caspar on. He got me a sort of pinkish-coloured farm animal to drink. Is that better?
Doesn't matter to me, mate. It's the ITC that'll close us down.
5-6 makes it 40. Got the bottom pair. Now this is interesting. Up and down straight for puck. Backdoor flush. Just calls. And ace 4 calls. What on earth? Cas, lift your head up.
Yeah,
there.
I've seen it. It's awful.
Don't say the queen 3 is good. I didn't understand that call by the ace 4 at all. Out of position, calling with ace 4 with not any semblance of the flop fitting his hand. Calvin, I just don't understand that at all. If you to make a move afterward, I could understand it, but... Well, Puck, I think you should be quite happy just to take your draw, mate. Don't try anything too cute. Look at this. Calvin's got the ace. He's made a... and he bets 20. Oh, I give in. Wow. Well, you got the result, but I really think that is a long-term strange call. Four times a big blind, under the gun with a pair of jacks, declaring that he's got a hand, i.e. really trying to just end up in a one-on-one. And he's been re-raised by a pair of 7, so that's very strong play by Puck there. I think the ace-10's got a pass, which he does, and the pair of jacks has decided to stay in there. Well, I'll tell you what, if he decides to call that, I'd have been perhaps just as inclined to re-raise. Oh, well, he's done it now. Okay, if he was so confident that he was winning, that's fine. And it looks like he was. Oh well, Puck's decided to solve his problem for him. He's got all his chips in. And Puck is going to make an early exit, having overplayed, I believe, a pair of 7s. And then continued to try and represent after he'd already asked the question and found that his opponent wasn't going away, which I think was rather strange. In fact, the pair of jacks, or maybe he's wrong-footed him by the pair of jacks not re-raising him, but still if he's prepared to call that re-raise, I think you're being optimistic to think you're going to get rid of the person, especially with no scare card coming on the flop. If a scare card had come on the flop, maybe then Puck could have represented he had that. That probably could have been the way he could have won the pot, i.e. if an ace had come on the flop, that could well have been the way he could have won that pot. But otherwise, I think it was the wrong storyline for a bluff, basically. Well, Danny, fresh with his success, fresh from his success, is now cranked it up again. He's got a pair of 5s. It's not too bad a flop for a pair of 5s. I.e. small cards, and people are more likely to be playing with big cards. But Nos there has taken the bull by the horns. Don't know what colour it was, but he took it by the horns anyway. And he bet with his king-jack. Good bet. Didn't think that was a flop which was going to fit anyone there. He was right. He took the initiative. He was out of position, so he realised his only way was for him to lead the attack. And he put in a chunky size bet, 300, and it worked well. Now we've got just calls here from Coink and from Calvin came, just calling the 20. Nos just called with the 6-8. Right, no aces around, but Coink's got a king. But Calvin, juicy, juicy, he's got trip 10s. That flop is great for the 10s because he's hit the 10, but a little bit scary for him there. He just could imagine someone had queen-jack. Could easily imagine it. If someone's prepared to play with 7-jack, they could obviously have played with queen-jack. But I'm sure that he believes he's winning. And there's no flush draw there, which is a blessing because people in these sit-and-goes do play with a lot of suited cards. So he's glad to see no flush draw. Ooh, and this is it. He can get more money now. Trip kings for Coink, but of course it's a full house for Calvin Kame. He's got full house, 3 10s, 2 kings. And what's Coink going to do? Bets 120. Trying to get paid. Oh dear, I think you will get paid okay, Coink. Calvin's thinking, how much can I raise? Oh, decided not to. Well, okay. The flop there. He's worried that his opponent's got ace-king. Ace-10, but the ace-10's unlikely because he's got the pair of tens. I think it's highly unlikely the guy's got the ace-5. Don't think that's a card to be scared of so much. Okay. I think that considering the amount of money Coink had, I'd have gone for the rest of his money there. Because, Calvin, if you were wrong, you weren't out the tournament. But if you're right, you could well have done with that 510 on your stack. And I think it was you were a huge favourite to be winning that from your analysis of the betting. So I think you should have gone for the rest of the money. So I actually put down that as a mistake, I'm afraid, Calvin. You should have put in the raise. Repeat that. 1, because you wouldn't have lost all your chips anyway, still be alive. 2, from the way the betting had been, I just don't believe you could have put Coink on the full house. So replay the story of the pot. Look back. How did the betting go? Try and work out the type of hand your opponent's got. I'm sure that you knew there that he'd clicked the king. You knew he liked the king. But if you sat there with the trip tens, you should be actually wishing for that king to land. Well, Calvin, he's getting hit in the face with the cards here. He's got played with 10-9 of clubs and he's made a flush. And he's bet this one, 840, covering the 820 of JW, and he's getting paid by Nos, who's got, of course, a nut flush draw, but, oh, and the sixes be cursing, but of course he shouldn't be, because he'd have made trip sixes, but it's no good, because Calvin's got the flush anyway, and Nos was going for the nut flush, but my goodness, what a big dog he was to make it, because Calvin already had the flush. Even without that, he'd have been slightly over 4-1 against anyway. He was in bad shape. And once you take into account Calvin's got 2 of the clubs, of course, he becomes an even bigger dog. Underdog, that is. Pair of tens again, and this is for Royland here. A big raise here, 8 times the big blinds, makes it 160, and I don't understand this. He's called with Queen 7. Coink, what is going on? That's 40. Into a pot of 340. The tens must love this. So, yes, there you go. He puts Coink all in. And no club there for Coink. There's a club there for Royland. His pair of tens turns into a flush. And Coink, you made 2 pair on the end there, but my goodness, what was that call all about? With that stack of chips, you did not need to be calling with Queen 7. Very dodgy. You still had time there. The blinds were 10-20. You still had the time to pick your hand where you could push all in yourself when you wanted to. You did not have to play a guessing game with Queen 7. What were you hoping your opponent to have? I'm afraid to say we saw a bit of sloppy play there. Sorry, mate. I've got to say it as I see it. So you don't do it again next time. Calvin, pair of tens. Danny B makes it 160. Well, just flat calling here. We've got 4 in there with random hands. Ace 3, 3, 2, Queen 10 and 7 King. And the flop is Ace King 8. Well, Royland thinks this is a dream. Nut flush draw and the top pair. How sweet life is. I just limped in with Ace 3 and look at this. Oh, and Calvin's there with the Queen 10 looking for a jack. Royland, 2 pairs now, aces and 8s with a king, which actually saves his worries about his kicker now so much, because of course he would now draw level with ace queen, ace jack, ace 10, ace 9. So this was a lovely card for him to pair up. He doesn't have to worry too much, and he has the vig of having a flush draw. Must feel great. And how he got some more money out of Calvin, I am not sure. Calvin, you frittered. Spam fritters are bad enough, but fritted chips are worse. Pair of queens. Raises. There's a bet raised by Danny, 160 with his ace 10. Re-raised by the queens. Good strong play. Knows he wants to get his chips in this one. Here's his chance to get back in the game. Hoping that Danny's going to make a move. And he has done. There we go. No hesitation. Calls with the queens. No ace needed. Job done. To jack, that's fine. And Danny overplaying. Not really listening to what's going on there. He put in a raise, he was re-raised, he hasn't connected with the flop. Is this a good time to do a continuation bet? Don't think so. Caspar tut. Don't know what it meant. We'll find out later. Albert. Another flat call here from Calvin. Albert, 7-8. Okay, I wouldn't mind just calling myself. Good. You've got position. Very nice. You can just about afford that. Just pray for no raise. You didn't get one. That's great. Royland there missed. You've only committed 40. What are you bothering about? Just check it. Calvin surely should bet here. He's only got one person after him. He just bets 40 into a 140 pot. And he takes down the pot. Ace Jack for Albert. He's gone all in. 8.30. I will often go all in with probably even less than that at times, but I think that was premature. Why? Because let's just look at what he was doing there. He was putting 830 in the pot. If they pass, he wins 60. My goodness, what is going on here? You know, this is very, very poor odds. If he's called, a lot of the people who are going to call an 830 bet at this stage are going to have a much better hand than Ace Jack. When the blinds are bigger, this all-in play becomes a different play, because you look at the percentage you're getting back. But this case here, he's about 12.8 to 1 on, basically. And of course, this risk-reward ratio is just completely out the window there. And he could be out the window altogether here, I'm afraid, because he's got 2 pairs, 7s and 3s, and he's against 7s and 8s. Albert, it looks bleak. It is bleak. And we've lost another player. They're dropping like flies now. flat raise from JW with A7 suited. Just called by Danny B. And Royland's got the second pair there. Made a pair of 8s. Another weird call, a raise here. Oh, he's raised, I beg your pardon. He's raised with A7. Okay, well, if he's going to try and slow him down. But basically, when there's a 10 and an 8 on the flop, and you've got A7, you really are asking for miracles. When there's a flush draw out there, so you're just playing this purely for a move. Well, okay, you did it. I'm not sure that your risk-reward ratio is worth that either, because you were only on the second level of blinds again. There wasn't that much money in the middle. Okay, it looks cute, but I think your reward was poor. I don't think you won enough. I think the risk was too great. Just because something works one time, of course, does not mean to say that it's the right play. It's how it would work over 100 times, 1,000 times, and that's what we've got to think of poker all the time. Well, very aggressive play by JW there. He's going to be beaten by a pair of 3s. And there we go. Calvin's got him. We're seeing some rather strange poker here, I have to admit. It's very aggressive there. Calvin called with just the ace-3. He hit the 3. Once he'd done that, of course, it became a big favourite, although the other guy had the flush draw. Clicking the pair made him a juicy favourite. As it happens, he was unfortunate there with his when he did push with the ace-jack, because, of course, Calvin was a big underdog, because that time... Oh, pre-flop, obviously, Calvin was a big underdog. Well, we're in the money. And we've got a very healthy chip leader, Calvin, here. And Danny is adrift of the field at the moment, with only 8.95, but the blinds are still low. It's 40-80, and I'll tell you what, it's been a while since I've seen a sit and go whiz through like this one. This has been mega fast. But there's been a lot of loose play, a lot of moves, a lot of moving and grooving. Ah, and he's just been overcome. He had the 2 pairs, queens and 5s, but it's been counterfeited by the king coming on the river. Oh, but he's bet, and he's got rid of Danny, who actually had the best hand. He had kings and queens with a jack, while Calvin only had kings and queens with an 8. But Calvin used his muscle. He'd got the chips. He used them well that time, and he bullied Danny out of it. So that was actually good play there. I like that very much. And Danny decides he's got to do something. He's right. He's put a big bet in. He's noticed people here call with all sorts of things, so maybe he thinks, I could get called by a lesser hand here. But he doesn't, so he captures 120. That takes him close to the 1,000 mark. He's got the famous king-queen there now. Well, this is short-handed, 3-handed. It's a big hand now. I'm happy. Oh, he's whacked it in, and yes, it's happened. There's some strange calling going on here. King-9 called. And yep, he's got back in the game in a big way there. Well done, Danny. Because the window of... Oh, what have I missed there? Beg your pardon. You hit a straight. Oh, my goodness. I thought you got away. Unlucky, pal. Beg your pardon. It sneaked in there. The 6 on the river. Danny, how brutal was that? Yep, he's got the 9. Sorry about that. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well done, the back room there, for showing that. Very unlucky indeed. I think his premise there of putting all in there was good. Not because he could win so much in the middle, but because people had been seen to be calling with a lot more hands than they should be calling with. And it's exactly what happened. He got called by the king-9. He dominated him with the king-queen, and he got brutally outdrawn on the river there when Calvin made the straight. Okay, well, Calvin now heads up, I'd imagine, should be... absolutely fearless, which he is. He's called the raise with 5-9. There'll be no mucking around from Calvin. I expect a bet from him here. Oh, 160. Okay. And he's won that one. And Calvin, I'm sure, a big favourite here with his aggression. Well, there we are. He's got a real hand now. Pair of eights. Yep. And Royland re-raises with ace-2. He's seen a lot of different hands from Calvin. Calvin's got another re-raise back. Royland's another re-raise back. We're having fun here, chaps. Go on, another flat re-raise. Come on, let's have another one. Please. Oh, go on. A bigger one. Oh, it's like tennis. Look, back and forth. We've had 17 raises, Cass. 9-7-3. Calvin out in front. There's only 5-40 left for Royland. You've got no choice, Calvin. Just set him in. Yep, well done, mate. Royland there. Yep, he's called. It's pair of sevens, pair of eights for Calvin. It's no surprise with his aggression there. He's taken the first prize. Well done, guys. Exciting there. I think a lot of strange plays there, however. I'm not quite sure that we were looking at the value of our plays particularly. I was a bit worried about that. Just because some of our plays were successful could be dangerous. Why? Because you might think that some of those plays were good, when I'm afraid some of them were definitely not. So don't let the short-term result, even when they go in our favour, don't let that influence you unnecessarily. So do be careful about that. Anyway, well done anyway, and certainly Calvin's aggression at the end there was certainly very good heads up. Let's have a look to see if we've got an email. We have, and it's from John, and it's VV Long apparently. Oh goodness, I think it's a novel. You've done a good job passing this across to me, Cass. You know when to do it, don't you?
It'll kill some time.
Hi guys, interesting discussion about what is gambling and whether a gambler, in common parlance, considers himself a gambler. My first thought is this. This is a social/cultural question. The word gambler, as defined by a bookmaker, man in the street, vicar, insurance broker, individual, is a very loose term. Therefore, before you can seriously attack this subject with any clarity, I think you have to acknowledge that this is a question that has no answer as such. What is to be gained from this discussion is the discussion and not the answer. Good point. With this in mind, I think this of myself. I was a gambler until I came to poker and got to a level where I was no longer really gambling because the long term was short enough in the games I chose to ensure that I made a profit in the medium or even short term. Another good point. I say I was a gambler because simply I used to gamble a lot on football, cricket, snooker, etc. I used to love it. I would study the form and look for the best price and plump for my choice and hope to make more money than I lost long term. In the back of my head, I knew that I realistically needed an inordinate amount of luck or would have to spend my life studying form to make money. I also used to play casino games and slot machines. Poker's ended all this for me. I now cannot stand to see my hard-earned cash or hard-won wagered on a bet that had a lower expectation than my poker playing. Okay, there is your common sense answer about what being a gambler means to me and how I'd approach the whole question. However, the next point is the real one for me. Here we go. Gambling is what humans do.
I think gambling is what humans do, as opposed to gambling is what humans do, not monkeys. Gambling is what humans do. Shall I go back to the game?
Gambling is what humans do.
That's it.
Gambling is what monkeys would like to do.
It's like Manny on The Apprentice.
Yeah.
This is what I do.
All
Remember?
right.
Very funny.
I didn't watch The Apprentice.
Oh,
Actually.
God, it was brilliant. Manny was just awful.
Was he?
Just horrible.
The girl won it.
Yeah.
I think Tyler's going to win American Idol, however. Gambling is what humans do. And I did say this a long time ago.
Have you got a bet on it?
I said this a long time ago.
Funny
enough, I didn't watch it enough. I didn't have the bet on it. But I did say it a long time ago. Gambling is what humans do. They even gamble on American Idol, on Pop Idol, on whether Caspar will finish 4th, 3rd or 2nd.
Well, I'm not gonna hear
Riding
that at
a
the moment.
bike, getting in a car, having an operation, eating for goodness sake, everything we do has an element of risk and some sort of expectation. Gambling is in all of us. Anyone who thinks otherwise is most likely trying to make a point about bad gambling, i.e. an addiction to needless gambling or beyond a set bankroll. My final point, I could go on yes, I think you could, ad infinitum, but have a feeling that this may not be warranted here, is one that Cass touched on the other day. Cass!
Oh, no, this is not what you think. Before you read it, it's not what you think.
Cass.
It's not expressed very well because it's not what you think.
You spoke of a Chinese girl.
Yeah, no, it's not what you think. She's an orphan. It's not that.
What do you mean, not that?
Seriously, I don't want to joke about it because it's not that. She's an orphan girl. That's
Well,
what
that's what I was thinking.
Oh, okay. I just don't want you to make a pun about it because it would be embarrassing, that's all.
As if I would.
No, okay. It's just that if you read Caspar helping a Chinese girl, obviously you jump to a certain conclusion, and it's not you.
No.
One should jump to a certain conclusion.
One could.
Yeah. Could, that's
Cass,
not should.
you spoke of a Chinese girl and helping her. It's very nice of you.
It's...
I said that's very nice of you.
Mm-hmm.
You then went on to explain how poker has taught you so much, but has hardened you in some way.
It's
not what I think, is
it? It's very John Prescott.
Making you less caring for others as a byproduct of the need to look after your bankroll.
Yeah.
Carrying on this theme, spending our time as poker players is a gamble. We're sitting at a table, be it on the net or live, watching cards and trying to outfox an opponent or opponents. Are we not gambling with our time and mentality? If this is a synopsis, we are all gambling with something very delicate. Maybe a more pertinent question to begin with would be, who is not gambling, or what would we have to spend our time, money on to be considered not gambling? For me, the question comes down to the difference between culture and language. Fascinating stuff.
That's an interesting distinction, actually, between, I was just talking about business. Business puts money into something to get more money back. It's almost like everything is a gamble in a way because everything is uncertain, except for the things where you put things in not to get anything back, where you want to give to other people.
Right.
Because I was making the point that poker had just made me think constantly in life about what's in it for me, what do I get out of it? You almost get into that mentality.
Yes.
And life's not about that. Life's about what's in it for others.
That's very good.
How can I give back?
But perhaps to what to give to others, you've got to be harder in other areas, though.
Yeah, you can't give anything to others unless you've got something to give. There's no doubt
Exactly.
about that,
So
yeah.
therefore, maybe then you'd be hard and calculating anyway.
Yeah.
Like Barry Greenstein. He's hard and calculating in his cash games, but he gives all his tournament winnings away to charity.
Does he really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he does.
Does he?
Barry Greenstein, yes. He's a massive cash winner, but in tournaments he gives all his tournament winnings away.
Good God.
So therefore he's hard and calculating, but yet still caring and giving. So
What a
there we
good
go.
guy.
Well, actually, I'm not quite sure. I think I missed a few points of that email, so I'm just going to read it again. Only joking. OK, I'll tell you what, let's get back to a game. Cass, you spoke of a Chinese girl and helping her. Some people could have been thrown by this.
No, I know, and I don't want them to be because I don't. It's not an appropriate.
No, of course not.
I don't mind having a joke about my
About your what?
predilection for Far East ladies of my age. Oh dear, it's not going well, James.
It's not going well. Oh dear. Well, no,
It's not going well. There's no two ways about it.
Well, no, actually, I think you've got. I think you've probably got more equity now than when you started, just about. Even though it looks a bit horrific.
Maybe.
Yeah, you probably have. Okay, this is 25 cents, 50 cents. And Under the Gun raises to $2. J tickets, Ace King, Big Slick. Father Dazza. Good name. This game, for people who are new to the show, is a game where they can buy in for a maximum of $50 or a minimum of $5. It's a cash game. This is real money they've got in front of them. So Kansas Coyote there has really got $121.35. And Phoenix, ace 10, it's got the top pair. J Tickets, ace with the smaller kicker, decides to test the water with a re-raise, but oh, he's in trouble now because Phoenix is now checked, which might look like weakness to J Tickets, but it's not. It's a check through strength because he's got two pairs, and Tickets, kiss your money goodbye. Are you good enough to put it down? Well done, you are. Okay, I don't mind that. You tried a few things. You got unlucky because Phoenix actually found a card which helped him to know exactly where he was. But then, J Tickets, you were good enough to put your top pair down because you realised what had happened. So, good poker. Exactly what I like to see. But you're unlucky here now because you've got an up and down straight and a top pair. But look at that. Morrison there with the Queen King. 9-10, Jack, Queen King. Well, it's given you two pair now. It's actually given you 4 outs to overcome this hand. Give you a full house, of course. Not to be. But not a surprise. Oh! And I did not like that attempt there because it did not fit the storyline at all. What? Why should the 4 have helped you? Just didn't fit the storyline.
Is this a cash game we've been watching for a while, or have we just come to it?
We've just come to it.
Just come to it. 25.50. Good. Well, listen, you've done a lot of commentating on hands, so I want to come back to the questions that I was asking you before about our King Queen. So we talked about King Queen from we were in the big blind, and we had a raise from early position, and we said we'd fold it even though we were getting pot odds for a lot of the possible hands that he could hold, not all of the possible hands.
And I would fold it against. I don't know about it. I'm just folding it.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
It's only if I know the character and he really plays like a very high percentage of hands. If he raises with a very high percentage of hands.
Yes.
Well, then I can now probably have a fight with him.
Okay, but the reason for that is that what's happened is.
I'm not still jumping for joy because I'm out of position.
I understand. But the reason why that player profile allows you to continue playing is because in addition to the 12 hands that a tight player might have, against which you're getting very few pot odds, so many more hands have become possible against which you're getting good pot odds, that it brings the mean level of pot odds to something that's playable.
It might be like we witnessed in that latter stage of the sit and go. I highlighted a situation there where actually I liked the play from someone who needed to get chips, pushed in, all in with King Queen, although the blinds weren't big. They were a bit bigger than they had been, but normally I hate this because you're just not getting a very good reward. And earlier on I really disliked someone's play when he pushed in 830 to win 60. Because at that stage, he was only going to be called by someone with a better hand. It was hopeless. This stage in the last 3, we'd already seen people were capable of making calls with random sort of hands. So therefore, he did have a chance to have some hands who would call him when they were losing. And it's what happened. He got actually called by King 9, who ended up making a straight, but that's irrelevant. So that's why his play was more justified than normal. By going all in that situation. In this situation against a guy who played more hands and raises with more things, if he's now capable of I have to look, what is he capable of raising with where I'm in good shape?
Yeah, okay. So that's why, so presumably when that raise comes from one before the cutoff, there are more hands possible.
Right, the problem is with the King Queen, and this is why I've got this saying about it, is the problem with the King Queen is there's not so many hands the guy raises with where I'm in good shape.
Okay.
That is the problem with it. What is it? What is it he's raising with? Okay, he raises with 6, 7. Right, I'm in good shape there. But I'm in bad shape because if he hits these hands where I could end up really paying him off as well. It's just an awkward. That's I'd like him to be doing that, but a lot of the time people aren't raising with that so often. But the hands he raised with all the aces, well, not brilliant.
Yeah. But you are getting more than 2 to 1 if he's raising
I am,
aces.
yes. But I'm in this.
But you don't know, and
don't know
therefore
where
you need
I
the
am.
odds to
It's
justify the ignorance.
You need more than the odds. The odds aren't the same thing. It's because some of the cards you want to hit are going to be counterfeited because your opponent can have the same card but with a better kicker, etc., etc. And that is one of the problems. So when you look at your flop and you've called a raise and you've hit your king, well, it's a bad job now when you say, I wonder if I'm winning.
Okay, in a minute, I'm going to stick this king queen on the button. But right now, now you're sitting in the big blind with 6-7 of hearts, 6-7 suited. Raise comes from early position. Are you more inclined to call?
Do you know what? In a funny way, I can. If I'm getting odds with a hand like 6-7, I am more likely to call.
Okay, why?
Because I can win the big pot now.
Right.
And also, I know very easily how to get away from this. I can see if I've connected or not. It's a blind man can see.
Okay, so in the decision tree, how does that look? In terms of when the flop comes down, we're saying there's actually a smaller chance of you hitting a good hand, like with King-Queen, right? King-Queen's going to make a better hand more often, but what's happened is down this sort of, 10%, 20% chance of hitting a half-decent hand, you're going to take a lot more money off him, yes?
Yes.
So there's a 10% chance of making $1,000 rather than a 30% chance of making $300.
Yes, but it's better than that because also I get away from so many hands. And if I only just hit a 6, I can get away from it. Why do I have to try anything here?
Okay.
I don't over-push this hand at all.
Okay.
I'm looking for the monster hit where you'll say, you could never have called me with 6-7. Unlucky.
So if I were to draw a decision tree, right?
Yeah.
What happened? Or not a decision tree, but an options tree, right? An outcomes tree. What you've got with the king queen is, let's just say, a 10% chance of making a $1,000 pot, right? And then a 90%. No, with the king queen, sorry. With the 6-7, you've got a 10% chance of making a $1,000 pot, and then let's argue, to simplify it massively, a 90% chance of not losing anything more.
Yes.
In other words, getting away from it.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So 10% of 1,000, expectation of 100. Let's say.
Yes.
Right. With the king-queen, you've got, let's say, a 30% chance of making a $1,000 pot, right? A 20% chance or a 30% chance of making nothing, but then let's say you've got a 40% chance of losing $2,000.
Yes,
yeah?
I think you just lose these so many big hands.
That's right.
And the only hand you really know where you are is, of course, is when you make the top straight.
Right.
And that's about... It's probably full house with kings and queens. But I'm just saying, but there's not too many hands you say, well, that's it, I've definitely got it.
No.
Because you're against a razor.
No, so let's just summarise that, though, for people who don't understand the outcomes tree. With the 6-7, 10% chance of making 1,000, 90% chance of nothing, expectation there of 10% of 1,000, which is $100. With the king-queen, we said, what did we say, 30% chance of 1,000, which is a profit of 300. We've said 30% chance of losing no more, so that's nothing. 30% of nothing is nothing. But we said a 40% chance, here in the middle, because it's got to equal 100%, a 40% chance of losing, let's say, $2,000. It's the reverse implied odds of a king-queen. So that's a loss of $400. So a profit of $300 plus a loss of $400 leads to an overall loss-making expectation of $100. Now, I'm not saying those figures are verifiable. What I'm saying is that's how an outcome tree can work. Last word, James, before we go to a break?
Yes, and don't get confused, because there could be a situation, if you're in a tournament and you had a certain stack size, well, goodness, I might even re-raise with it, who knows?
Sure.
So don't think, I'm talking more about the situation, the money game here.
Yeah, no, I know.
But my basic principle is, in hands on the big blinds, is probably not to play too many at all, because I hate playing out of position.
Okay, good. We're going to have more decision tree and outcome tree chat after this break. Do join us then. What a way to kick off a part. Hi, folks. How are you? We're professional as ever.
Top of the league.
Top of the league. To the poker poet James says, Christopher in London, Great show, you two, but can James explain his king-queen rule to me? I tell you what, mate, I'm going to kill myself rather than hear that again. To me, it seems as though you let in hands with large implied odds against you. You let in king-2 to hit 2-pair, and even when you do, you hit the flop best, you'll be fighting for the blinds. I may be wrong, though, so please enlighten me. You have 15 seconds starting from now.
Yeah, I don't want to go on and on about king. If this encourages people to call flat call with king-2, jolly good, because we're going to be getting the better of them as well.
Brilliant, well done. We have an email from Mr. Ken Snappet, who says, Cass and James, in the strict sense of the word, poker is gambling. You are investing money, and if things go right, you get a return, but nearly everything in life is a gamble. OK, so if we define it like that, well, then everything in life is a gamble.
Crossing the road.
I think this is Ken's point. The difference between poker and other gambling, such as roulette, is you're having to make decisions based on logical reasoning. I think you're making decisions based on logical reasoning in roulette. It's just that your logical reasoning says that you'll lose money.
And crossing the road.
We're getting to that.
Yeah.
Ready?
Oh, sorry.
Aeroplanes and cars crash every day and people are killed, so you're gambling every time you travel. Or
crossing the road.
However, you take sensible precautions to minimise the risk and take comfort that the odds are on your side. It's about risk-reward. There's a very minimal chance the plane will crash and that it's out of your control. But the reward is you can achieve nice holidays and see the world, etc. Logical reasoning tells you it's worth travelling. However, if every plane crashed, you probably wouldn't take that chance. Good, fantastic. Thanks, Ken. Final one from Rob. Have you done this? Hi, guys. Gambling is gambling if there is no certainty that one person will definitely win in the long run. Any casino game cannot be classed as a gamble because the casino always has an edge and will always win in the long run. That's an interesting definition of it. That's, for me, not confusing, although because that has a negative connotation, but it's mixing up the concept of gambling with uncertainty. I don't know if you saw last night, I proposed a problem. Let's say you have to bet on the toss of a coin. Do you know the outcome of a toss of a coin, James?
Yes, I think I do.
What's the outcome?
What, 50-50?
No, the outcome is you don't know.
Oh,
so you know the probability of the toss of the coin. Okay, now you have to bet on whether you're going to pick a white ball or a black ball from an urn filled with balls, right? Now the urn is filled with a random number of balls. It's been filled by someone who has no notion of what this urn is going to be used for, but we know there are some white balls and some black balls. What's the chance of picking a white ball?
What, there's an equal number of...
No, you don't know what the numbers are. They could be equal, could be 99-1, could be... What is the chance of picking a white ball?
I don't know.
No, because the probability is based on the best information you have available to you at that time. Yeah. So given that the information that you have available to you at that time is that there are two colours of balls in there, all you can say with any certainty is that it's 50-50. In exactly the same way as when the coin is tossed, you could say, oh, I don't know what it's going to come down as because I don't know how hard he's going to flick it and which side is face up at the moment. But all you know is there are two possible outcomes and a 50-50 chance of each one. So going by Rob's definition there, he's confusing gambling with uncertainty, because the urn we'd class as a problem of uncertainty. And yet, uncertainty is exactly what probability deals with, but you can only make a decision based on the knowledge available to you. Let's give another example of that. You're sitting with a pair of sixes in the hole, right? What's the chance of getting 3 sixes by the flop?
Oh, by the flop?
Yeah.
7.5 to 1, yeah.
OK. Now, your girlfriend's standing behind you, right? And she's seen that you've got 2 sixes in the hole, and she's also a little wander around the table, and she's caught a glimpse of another person's hand, which is king 6. What's the chance of you flopping a 6 according to her? Oh,
according to her, yes, it's completely changed because now I've only got 1 out.
Right.
So I'm now about
15. Is it doubled? Would you say, or is it slightly?
No, I'm about Oh, no, it's.
Let's say 12 to 1.
Yeah, okay.
Let's say 12 to 1. Okay. My point is that probability is contingent upon the level of information that you have, because as far as you're concerned, you are certain. It is a fact that the chance of flopping a 6 is 7.5 to 1. Yeah. So probability is always contingent on the information you have available to you. It's an interesting philosophical point, as indeed gambling throws up all the time. But Rob goes on, any casino game cannot be classed as a gamble because the casino always has an edge and will always win in the long run. To hit a number at roulette is pure chance. Sports betting also has an edge, as you never get true odds. A small odds-on shot would probably be even money in reality, so the edge is gained that way. Do you want to argue with that, James? Sports betting, you can never get an edge?
I do argue completely. Of course you get an edge in sports betting.
How do you do that, James?
Well, by obviously studying the subject, by getting information, by doing simple things, just by using odds checkers, finding where the prices are. You can do arbitrages in sports betting where you can't lose. You can back both sides of the bet. For those who don't want risk, try that. There's no risk. If you can get both sides of the bet on there, you have a guaranteed win. Yes, you can easily beat sports betting. I've been doing sports betting for a long time as well. Cass has been witnessed me sports betting quite a few years ago when we were doing a TV programme.
It's awesome. So sits there in his pants, betting away like a degenerate pant maniac. But the key thing is, how do you get an edge in sports? Has anyone seen the film Casino with Robert De Niro? If he's betting on baseball or he's weighting the baseball scores, he wants to know how much moisture there is in the air, because that will affect his probability determination of the likelihood of hitting a home run. Sports betting, as I'm sure James will tell you, he gets up every morning and he trawls through websites that he subscribes to, is a knowledge economy. And if James knows more than a bookie who's setting the odds, then he can exploit, every now and again, tiny little bets where he knows that the bookie has underestimated or overestimated the value. Is that correct?
Yeah, and just looking for value. Basically, the thing is you're looking for value, so that's why you'd use something like an odds checker. There's hundreds and hundreds of bookmakers out there. Find out who's giving you the best price. They vary the prices dramatically because all the odds compilers, they've all got different opinions. You can say, as I said, you can find this bookmaker makes it 7-4 against, this one makes it 5-2 against. Wow. If you look at the one bookmaker giving a line for a football match, the bookmaker might have 12% advantage. But if you look at all the bookmakers and get all the best prices, it might only be 1%, 2%, or it might even be a completely arbitrage situation for you.
Can I say one thing, folks, before we get to my Beat the Presenter game? Betting on sports, just like betting on poker, is an incredibly difficult thing to make profitable. James has been doing it for many, many years. He genuinely does get up every morning and work very, very difficult. Please, please, please do not infer as what we're saying is that someone can get up in the morning and make money on sports betting. In fact, I would counsel anyone to think twice before sports betting.
Listen,
in any situation.
I haven't had time to study recently, so I've not. My sports betting has dropped dramatically because you need to study.
Right. I actually think that bookies on council estates are the scourge of our society. Have basically, when we talk about selling dreams and selling beliefs, I think it's the most irresponsible kind of dream selling you possibly can. It's like a tax on the poor. Okay, let's get to the Beat the Presenter and see how well or badly I fared.
How did you feel?
I didn't feel good, to be honest with you, and I think it's a fascinating game for us to watch. And we're going to have a lot to say from the point of view of learning from it. I think I make some good mistakes and some
some good mistakes.
Yeah, some good mistakes and some good plays, and everything in between. It was a difficult tournament again. Standard was high.
What price was this one?
$30.
Okay.
So we got 2 times the chips, which I'm happy to have, glad to have.
And it's a pair of aces for Mr. Perfect. Very nice to capture that.
It is.
Especially with an under-the-gun raise. Three times the initial raise he's popped in, made it 120. They all passed.
And, that's the makeup of the table, is people passing. So there I am with ace-jack in early position. And because it's blinds of 10-20 at this stage, I am happy to just call, as I would be with 6-2 suited on the button, and see what it brings.
However, there's been a raise.
There has, but I'm getting very good pot odds at this stage.
There's 130 in the middle.
Yeah, 6.5 to
1. 6.5 to 1.
And an ace comes down. So I want to see what happens, because I am wary of these two guys with position on me. So I check it there, and I see a bet. But the one thing I'll say about DVN is that I'm not overly scared. In fact, to be honest, I'll be completely honest with you, I didn't put him on an ace.
Now you like this. You love this.
Now I love this situation.
So now you're checking out through strength.
No, yeah, absolutely, because he's bet out, and I've just called him, and we'll see exactly what happens. I know exactly before I check that I'm going to do this. I check raise him. I didn't put him on an ace on the flop.
Yeah, as I said, you checked here through strength. I'm expecting to see the raise here. It's come. And
he has a good old long think about this, actually. Oh, he doesn't. I thought he did. And the 10 comes. Now, here's what happens. The flush draw is on, and actually one of the hands that he could have is a flush draw, so I actually put a blocking bet in here. Because if I check this and he goes all in, I can't
14-17 in
call.
The middle, so you bet 200.
Yeah, that's a blocking bet. In other words, if he now goes all in, I can fold with impunity. And if he doesn't have the flush, he'll call. So for me, that's a blocking bet situation. Would you agree, James? Are you a fan of blocking bets or not? Do you think it's 200 down the toilet?
No, I think that there's a place for them. I just wonder if it was enough. It turned out to be enough.
Well, we don't know because he didn't have a flush. The question is,
no, but he could have re-raised you.
Yes, he could have. Yes.
Yeah, so you could re-raise you without a flush.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing.
That's
and
true.
that's what I'm...
That's the danger.
That's a danger. So
Yeah.
I just don't want to leave the door open for someone
Fair enough.
to smell it as weakness and say, I'll come over the top of you. I think this is you will put this down. Because you'd have been right. You would have done. So I just wonder that sometimes we economise on the price of our blocking bet. So that's just the one little...
Yeah.
I'm being pernickety.
No, absolutely, mate, absolutely. It's,
So I don't know if
it's
you-
not a realm of the game that I claim to be a master in at all.
Right, so I'm just saying, I'm just looking at the percentage of the pot you've bet. And either, if you make that bet at me, I'm looking at the fact that you're either putting in a blocking bet or you've got an absolute monster and you somehow want to get 200 off me.
Yeah.
So
That is, I mean, that's the thing. If he doesn't have a flush, it's very hard for him to raise me if that third flush comes.
unless he takes the bet as weakness. But he must feel quite confident about his hand as well, because he's got the 3 aces as well.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. DVN, if you want to email in and tell us how you felt about that, then do so. Now, at this stage, because it's early in the game, I'm calling on the button with Queen 10.
Yeah,
Again,
I
I wouldn't
like that.
advocate the call unless I'm getting such big pot odds.
Well, I like that. There's just been flat calls everywhere. That's great.
Sorry, not pot odds, I do apologise. Not pot odds, but implied odds. You could say possible implied odds to give it...
Well, top pair for Chugin. Bets 100 into a pot of 90. And we've got a second pair for Pokermatic. Ooh, it's come over the top.
Interesting stuff. I can't remember what happens here, actually. Jugan calls.
So now...
If you're going to check raise there, James, do you think that the 2 times check raise there is effective?
Often the flat raise is a sign of strength, I think.
Okay.
Normally, however, on the turn. On the flop, I think maybe it needs to be a bit bigger. Because,
That's my point.
yeah, because the person's now got 2 cards to draw to a hand.
That's right. They want to call and draw, and again, at this stage in the tournament, because it's only a flat raise, 100 is so little.
Yeah, that's right. But I said if the flat raise is on the turn, I
Yeah.
think it's often a sign of strength. But
Yeah.
there, I think it needs to be a bit bigger.
Yeah, that's
And,
my feeling.
I would have thought I'd have done it probably 3 times if I was making the move.
I've got no problem if the bet had been 250 on the flop, raising it to 500. It's just 100 on the top. Sorry, the bet had been on the turn,
Yeah.
250, raising it to 500. But this 100 bet on the
Yeah.
flop, raising it to 200, it doesn't have any fold equity. That's
No.
my point. And
No,
he's got second
It lacks fold equity, so I think it does need to be big. I agree with you. However, and a lot of these betting, I have to carry on. Actually, our last time on the show together, and I was telling you about how I'd been playing short-handed no limit.
Yes.
And I was restricting myself to just a flat raise all the time, 2 times the big blind. So now I thought, I'm going to take this experiment a bit further.
Okay.
So I played, last night, I played, I think 3 hours on the internet, playing 4 tables of no limit at once. And I virtually restricted myself, say 90% of the time, minimum. I restricted myself to 2.5 times the big blind.
Okay.
Just to see what happened. So I now set this precedent that was my raise. If we see a hand, we'll just break off. It's fine. We've got a pair
I
of
think I
raises
play
there.
this. I think I call this.
Okay, let's
actually.
check this
yeah,
out.
we'll just have a look at this. Just called my queen.
Again, because you're still on the first level, you say,
Late
well,
position. Yeah, first
you
level.
might get trip 8s or something.
You know
who
my
knows?
theory. I think if you don't play these early levels, all you do is you just get pitched in the mix with a lot of people going
This
all
is
in at
something
later
you can
levels.
do in this tournament where you're getting 2,000 chips.
Yeah,
And
I
also-
would do it with 1,000 chips, though, James. I've got to be honest. Whether
Okay.
that's right or wrong.
I think, again, it depends on what license you've got to play here. So now, I obviously think you've got more of a license to play when you have that many more big blinds.
Yeah, I mean, I take it even further. You see, in this tournament, I would actually call with
Well, I don't mind what
6-4 of hearts on the button
Well,
in a non-raised pot.
I would prefer it to 8 queen.
I know. But what I'm saying is I actually
Yeah.
take it further.
Yeah.
I actually use this as license for even more.
Yeah.
It's just what I prefer to do. I was thinking of having a pop at it at this stage. Glad I didn't now, obviously, having seen DVN's aces, and he turned them over in the hand. But it was checked around on the flop. No one seems to have much of anything. It was a pot of 90. Thought about putting 50 into it. Decided not to, and probably a good thing.
Well, you've got a middle pin straight draw here. but there's a double flush draw out there, so now you can discount your outs. We can see that they haven't been discounted, but that doesn't matter. It's quite likely people play with suited cards in this game, so therefore, although you had 4 for the middle pin, which you're pretty sure would win it for you, double flush draw. So in some ways, we could say, okay, maybe both flush draws out there, but say, in a way, I'd have discounted my outs as certainly 3.
What do we think of DVN's check on the flop with aces there? We didn't comment on that, and I don't love it, I'll be honest. He's got 3 opponents, so there's a lot of people drawing against him. All he's got is an overpair. I mean, it's precisely the time when you want to bet and get a call from a lazy jack, isn't it?
Yes, I'm not quite. Actually, I'll tell you what. I wasn't in tune with the beginning part of that hand.
Okay, mate.
So make a comment on his play.
I mean, I obviously noted that when I'm
when you were playing, yeah.
Yeah. But DVN may well be entitled to say that it's something he's doing to try and throw people in the early stages of a game, and obviously it wouldn't be something that he'd do later on, which is fair enough. I still think I would have bet out personally.
Mind you, I think the way these sit and goes are going to especially beat the presenter ones. I think now looking at it, one can actually. Well, one probably actually has to risk slow playing quite a few hands, actually.
I'm not. I think before the flop, they play incredibly tightly after the first 2 levels, but I don't know if they do on the flop.
I'm talking about before.
Before the flop. No, I'm talking about
because it just seems you're not getting action with big hands.
Oh, no, hang on. But very important to understand the question I was asking. Yeah. I'm not saying that he should have slow played before the flop. I'm saying on the flop is my problem.
You don't mind him slow playing before the flop?
No, I've made this point. I was absolutely shouting at Michelle last night about this point.
Yeah.
Because Michelle got kings like 3 times in the first 2 levels, and I was saying, look, you got to in this game slow play more often than not, and particularly as a presenter and beat the presenter, because people just fold to you and you win nothing with your kings in the first 2 levels. I'd have killed for kings tonight.
Well, trip 8 is even sweeter.
Yeah, I think, by the way, can I just make this absolutely clear? I'm not moaning at all. I've had more than my fair share of good runs in Beat the Presenters. But this is an interesting game because I really don't get a hand. So it's about what do you do if you're sitting there in a sit and go for me without a hand. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, of course, I could have, at one point I could have got 3 aces in a row, but what do you do when you haven't had and you don't have much of a reputation, you haven't showed any good hands?
Just a little interlude, because this doesn't look too exciting, this one. Yes, anyway, I changed my setting in the games last night to this 2.5 times for my raise. And obviously people who have got Poker Tracker or whatever will have noticed in the past this is a different raise than I'd been using. I'd have been using 3 times or 4 times the big blind.
Sorry, James, I'm highlighting this because I actually do a stupid thing here. I don't even know why I do it. The small blind raises with Jack Queen.
And you do a flat re-raise
with King Queen. Yeah, it's stupid.
Well, to slow him down, I presume.
Well, I don't even know why I do it. And then what happens is...
I don't mind it.
Well, I've actually given him information here. It's quite interesting. And Fermanagh bets out. And the point is, I've sort of said, with that re-raise, I've sort of said, I've got big cards. So when the flop comes little, he very intelligently bets into it. And I sit there and I smile because I think he knows that I can't call, I think. What do you think?
I think he was good. I think he was less likely to bet out there. I think you're a bit unfortunate. I think probably...
I should have raised 3 times his bet, I think, if I'm going to raise there.
Or yes, you could have. That's what I think. I think the thing was, I think your idea was good, but I think that minimum re-raise, which you didn't like seeing someone else doing, I think you're right to criticise yourself for it. I think you could have made it another re-raise of another 40 instead of the other 20, would have probably been enough to say, oh, maybe Caspar has got something here this time. And I don't think now he's going to just be... I think you could stop him bluffing at you.
Yeah, okay.
But I reckon if he hadn't done the raise at all, he would have still done the same bet with that flop.
Yeah.
If he's called... Because you've called his raise.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I think...
$40.
Perhaps been a bit tough on...
7, 8, 9, 10 Jack for DVN. What's he going to do now? On past performance, he's just going to smooth call this. I can't remember, actually. The aces obviously feel they've got a good shout. There's no obvious straights in there, and that's a perfect example of how hidden straights can be, isn't it, James?
Oh, this is a beautiful dream hand. And he hates that card, though, just in case. But...
I wouldn't be checking that. I've got to be honest.
No, I think you've got it. And I'll tell you why.
Oh, no, that's okay. It was a check for strength.
Yeah.
But
he did check it with strength, yeah. But he's not guaranteed that someone's going to bet there.
do you also think he should have finished Pokemalk off instead of just the flat raise there? If Pokemalk's going to...
I think he could afford to, because the same points I made in the sit ago when you were playing, he actually had the guy covered in chips. So he wasn't actually risking his tournament life.
Right.
Now, this is a huge difference. In plays where you're risking your tournament life, this actually does limit your play more, and you have to be slightly more cagey, because you're giving away equity by saying, this is my life on the line.
Absolutely. So Johan smooth calls. I sense that's weakness, as call in that position. I feel that 9 times out of 10 I'm going to have the better hand with the ace-jack, so I don't hesitate to re-raise it, but obviously I don't know what Pokemalk's got. Maybe I should think, okay, this guy might be...
You've got no decision there. It's only 180 more cast.
Yeah.
You just call automatically, and you're dead right to.
Yeah. But that hand has cost 400 out of my stack,
No.
which is I'm just saying that's that's
you
the
have
raw
to
facts
call
of the matter.
automatically. The only thing was there, I noticed that you put an extra big raise in against Johan.
Well,
I think you did that to stop him trying to make a move.
not really, actually. I don't know why I put quite so much, and it was
Why
5
did
times
you go
his bet,
5
wasn't it?
times
Yeah,
the
it
big
was 5
blind?
times his bet. Well, because I would say 3 times the big blind would be if he hadn't put a bet in. I'm raising 3 times the big blind.
Right.
Yeah. When someone puts a bet in, I tend to escalate that to 4. So I've only put in 1 more times the bet than I normally would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. I just wondered why you'd sort of slightly overbetted. That's all. I wondered what was your feeling, what made you do it.
Yeah. No, it was nothing personal against Johan. Poor old Johan thought that I was picking on him, and actually, as you'll see, Johan, as you watch this, every time that I raise, there's a legitimate reason other than it being Johan. Someone said, he's picking on you because you're a good player because you'll lay a hand down. All these players will lay hands down. To be honest, this is a table of good players. That's not the issue. But whatever the situation, I don't like being on 1500. I'm not saying I'm panicking. I'm not saying I'm throwing the toys out of the pram. I'm just saying in a sit and go, I do like to try and make profit in the early stages. In the old structure of 1,000, I like to be finishing level 3 with 2,000, and again, I like to be doing that because I've made some loose calls and some frustrated people have paid me off. When I've hit a hand. So I just feel edgy. That's all. Sorry, James, you keep starting a story and I keep interrupting you because we go.
No, it's okay. We've got to spot some of these interesting situations here. Yeah, so I said they'll have been following me on the game there with Poker Tracker or whatever. So now all of a sudden I'm putting in a different raise, which is quite interesting. But I've now played for quite a long time, a lot of hands. Also, people who see me on different tables that can see the same raises going in. But funny enough, it just sort of got accepted that this was my raise now, which was quite interesting because I'm now only putting 2.5 times the big blind in. I now actually varied the quite considerably the hands that I raised with. And found that I was able to maneuver people around quite well. They were giving me too much respect for small raises, and they were also passing incorrectly, probably a lot of times against my small raise. Also, I now raise with a few funny hands where I was able to win a couple of very big pots because there's no way I had like a raise with gapped connectors, and okay, got lucky and hit the straight. Of course, there's no way could they believe I've got this, and of course I wiped someone out with this. Interesting.
So now 2 things. First, this wasn't precipitated by our discussion. It was precipitated by the article on
Alan Goering. Yes.
Yeah.
So I've been just thinking, and also in the past I have been an admirer of people who have used small raises in tournaments very effectively, which I've talked about ages ago to start this program. I talked about Willie Tan, for example, who sometimes uses small raises very, very effectively, and Julian Gardner.
So what are we saying, James? Are we witnessing the birth of a new style for Mr. Browning?
Listen, I think it's in a game where I play regularly, this is a game I play regularly, and I think it does me no harm at all to alter my style. And I might, next time I go there, I might revert back again to another style. But just for me to add another style into the mix is going to go in my favour rather than go against me.
Can I just say that revert back is tautologous?
Oh.
Sorry,
yes,
it's just a bugbear.
It is. So
it's a football
I
commentator's
might
tautology.
revert to.
They're reverting back to a 4-4-2, they say.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I've hit a jack. I'm happy. I check it in that situation. I don't know what you think about this, James. This is a very controversial thing that I do. Nick shouts at me. When the flop comes king jack, when the flop comes with two pair and I've got the... Sorry, when the flop comes with a pair and I've got the other card, I don't like to bet that flop because I feel like I put myself in that situation in a vulnerable position of being raisable because you wouldn't bet if you had a king. That's my feeling and situation. I like to check it and just see what comes out. If the next player bets, I'm actually going to fold it. If the last position bets, I'll sometimes put in a check raise because then I can represent the king with the backup of the jack.
Right.
What do you think about that situation? Is that nonsense?
I think it's dependent on what the pair on the board is.
Okay.
And what the card you paired is.
That's a good point.
Because there's situations there where you don't want... Supposing the pair on the board was tens and you've got a jack. You don't really want to be giving people a free shot at a queen, a king, or an ace. Okay. Because they can actually, with those cards, they can actually beat you by hitting the card or beat you by betting you out of it.
But if you bet
in that case, I think this is... I can understand what you're saying, and I quite like the logic of what you're saying. I think it was unlikely I'm going to bet with the trips, but there's a way to get round this. During a game there, you should be betting with trips sometime. When you hit that trip, you should bet with it sometimes. Now it's not, I'm weak, I haven't got the king. No, we've seen him bet with trips before. That solves the situation. And that solves the problem of letting them having a free draw to hit a card. Because in poker, to let someone have a free draw to hit a card is a sin.
Sure, absolutely.
So
to hit a card that can beat you.
Yes, which can beat you, or which they could represent that they've hit and beat you, which is even worse. Now you're passing when you're winning because they're representing that they've hit the ace.
That's an excellent point. But I mean that point is made in theory of poker, isn't it? When should you slow play? Only when you can give a free card that can't hurt you. So that was what I'd go against that play for. But as I said, if I was to put you in the poker clinic on this one, I'd say, well, yes, Cass, make sure they see you bet with trips. Yeah, you're right.
And go out their way to say, look. And maybe in a game, you let them see that quite early. We don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. No, good stuff. Poor old DVN here has queens versus kings, and I'll just point out that I just folded ace-5, and I tell you what, folks, I was thinking of raising with ace-5, and I'll tell you why. Because here's what I foresee, and by the way, I happen to be right, but I foresee that this tournament is just going to go with cards because everyone's just playing the value of their hand. Where is your edge on a table where you're playing against good players who are all playing the values of their hand? You have to ask yourself, what's your great point, James? You know, you made it about 4 months ago. Where is my edge here? Write down where my edge is here. And as far as I'm concerned, my edge here is that I have, and everyone has, fold equity, and I'm going to exploit that fold equity. That's what I believe. And that means putting your balls out on the line and saying, you know, I'm going to make moves here.
Well, I think that's good thinking, but don't you still think that the blinds are a bit small to be trying to steal them?
I know. I'm looking ahead. I'm looking ahead. I'm just thinking.
Well,
I did fold the ace-5.
But at this moment in time, I don't think 120 is enough.
No, that's absolutely fine. But I tell you what, it's quite quickly not going to be that. So
I agree with that as well.
You've got to be thinking ahead.
I agree with that.
And the other thing,
and it's going to be quicker for you because you've already taken a little dip in your chips. So for you, this moment comes earlier than for others. And that's what we've got to look at. Where am I in the tournament? How much play have I got? How many rounds have I got? Still too early for me.
Fine. I've got just over 20. No, I've got 20 big blinds, but quite soon I'm going to have just under 10. Quite soon. I think we're literally 3 hands away right now. I'm going to have less than 10 big blinds. And that, as we've said, you know, is the limit of being able to raise 3 times the big blind. You know, significant. Any less than 8 big blinds, and you've got to go all in. Any more than 14 big blinds, and you can definitely carry on just raising 3. But 10, you're on the borderline. Depends on your own personal taste and the way you're perceived. And the way that I'm perceived means that I will be able to get away with just a raise of 3 big blinds, as long as no one has an exceptionally good hand to call or re-raise with. But that time is nigh.
Poker Malk's only got 700 there. And I think this is fine.
Yeah, no, absolutely, so do I.
And I think it's his correct play is just the all-in there, and either double up or capture blinds. But in that case, of course, the 120 is more significant to him, because 120 is quite useful on the top of 700. It now actually gives him another round of play, hopefully, to find a hand. And he's pushed again, and I think he's going to take it. It's a very tough call for King 10. Yep.
Now,
but now he's got to 860. Yeah, he's still.
Yeah, because the blinds have just taken him. So
he's still. He's going to lose this one. Yes. He's still under pressure here.
Can I put a counter argument? See what we think of this, right?
Can we just watch this?
Yeah. Well, I think he's done for.
Oh wow, this is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I've certainly picked the wrong time.
Cass has made it 240. Well, it's a big re-raise from Pokématic, and now, if Cass didn't know where he was, he does know now because he's been called in 2 places. There's no way he's going to stay there.
No.
And there was a flush draw for the aces. He didn't need it though. He's got 2 pairs, aces and 7s, which beats queens and 7s, and that's Pokémon gone. He didn't have too many chips. He got a big hand. He certainly had no escape.
No, he hasn't done anything wrong there.
Plus, now, you've sealed his fate for him by pushing some money in the pot before he's there. So he loves it even more. So he's just as though he raises. That's it.
But he's not going to do anything else with the queens, is he? I mean,
I don't know how he plays it. Otherwise, does he push all in again?
His money's going in against aces, whatever. So meanwhile, I'm in severe dire straits now. And like I say, it's interesting pulling back from there and staying alive and all the rest of it. But before we get to that, so if I'm Pokémalk, right, here's a counter-argument. Blinds are 40-80, right?
Yep.
And he pushes twice.
Yep.
And each time he wins 120,
yep.
right? So he's made 240. What that means, however, because I believe that people's memory is based very much on the last 5-6 hands,
yep.
is that when the blinds go up and actually his winnings would increase through exactly the same move, people are more likely now to call him.
Yep.
So he needs to have a hand. As I raise with ace-9, in I think what was the last hand at this limit, and no one really has anything to call me with. Is that a good play then? Oh, this is an interesting hand actually, James. So now I've just raised with ace-9, and I'm quite worried that if I make a raise here in first position, there's an interesting question on the forums: is poker played against yourself? I mean, I'm playing poker against myself here because you know what? I actually got the fear. I got the fear that if I raised again, I'd be re-raised with a pair of 10s and I have to put them down. So I make a very specific decision that this is how I'm going to play these 10s, and actually it works out exactly as I wanted it to work out, interestingly.
Well, because you're under the gun, a flat call under the gun can be a very big pair. So,
but Sekhmet actually takes advantage of something. He bets. Fermanagh makes a bit of a loose call, and I know exactly what I'm going to do. I know exactly what I'm going to do as soon as Sekhmet bets. And I really win.
I like the play.
And I've said to myself, unless the raise comes from DVN, Chugin, possibly Mr. Perfect, I'm going to re-raise them.
Yeah, I like it, yeah. So you've actually played it. I mean, but the thing is, I didn't like his re-raise there, not because of what happened. It's just because if you have, why not? You might as well just see the cards now.
Yes. Now, interestingly, Sekhmet's there folded a pair of aces. Fermanagh actually raises with a pair of 5s, which makes my decision much easier. I would have had a decision there before with Johan, and you know what? I would have re-raised him again because I'm in this aggressive mood, and it's not because I'm picking on Johan, but the raises come from late.
Yeah.
There's a great many hands that I'm beating. And again, because these blinds are going to go up, and this is a fast tournament, and of course I wouldn't do it in a £1,500 buy-in, with 45-minute levels, for example. Mm-hmm. But that's a quintessential example of where you have to play faster in a faster structured tournament, I think. Would you agree?
Yes. The interesting point here is about this, but where we are now is, again, what are the blinds and what are you getting? To me, 40-80 generally is still, I'm not looking to pinch the blinds here. Mm-hmm. It's just not quite enough. However, for example, he's gone now. What was his name again? Can you remember?
Pokémalk.
Oh, yeah, Pokémalk. Sorry, Pokémalk. So how quickly we forget. Pokémalk, he actually increased his stack there by 17% by capturing the blinds. Mm-hmm. So that's quite significant. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think he has to say, I see your point that he's sort of like using his all-in button too many times.
No, I'm not saying that. You know, I'm just asking the question.
No, I think there is something to that. There is something to that. But unfortunately, his situation...
It's not great.
It was right, I think. And now he says, right, OK, I've got a pretty reasonable hand here. OK, if you call, I might double up, I'm fine. I'm away from the all-in button if I survive it. Or I get 120, I've got 17.5% more. And of course, once he does it again, his fold equity does go up a bit because he's actually got a bigger punch. He's actually captured a bit more money than he would have had. We've got Cass here now with Jack Queen. Now the blinds have gone up, and it's to 81.60, and we've had a classical raise from Cass.
And this is the last time that I can raise this. And do you know what? I actually think if I'd gone in, if I'd moved all in, I think there's a chance that Mr. Perfect would have called. I think the all in there would have looked more desperate than the 3 times the big blind raise. I could be completely wrong on Mr. Perfect. If you're watching, do email in and argue with me. But I think that's the best thing that I can do in that situation. But this is the last time that I could possibly raise 3 times the big blind. You're quiet, James. I infer that as a disagreement.
No, I'm just trying to think what I think Mr. Perfect passes for the all-in. I just think the problem is, and so also against someone like Johan or whatever, it swings and roundabouts because there is also a chance that they might say, OK, I'm coming over the top.
Absolutely, mate. No, definitely.
Because they say, I think there might be a bit of fold equity still flying around there.
Yeah.
It looks like Cass might still be able to put this down.
That's very true.
So possibly Mr. Perfect, even with a king-queen, might say, OK, here we go. I'll test you. King-queen suited, it's a bit better. But no, I think he passes both ways. But I see what you... I know certain times the smaller bet, it looks like... It does look stronger. It's because you say, oh, goodness, he really wants it. He's not frightened. He doesn't mind if I play. So I do sympathise with it, and I do feel that when I'm playing. And
can I say one thing? The reason I don't put a 2 times bet in there is because I've been banging on about 2 times bets for the last 4 days.
Oh, yes.
They've got so much of a read on me when it comes to 2 times bets. That's the problem with, playing in a game after having spent 20 hours talking about how you would play.
And look at that, there's a good move from Furman there. Wow. Pressurising, eh? Did you feel it or not?
Very much so. Down below.
Mr. Perfect there. He's decided to crank it up.
And I mean, I think, the other next level of things here is that we... probably as these Beat the Presenters go on and long may they continue, is we need to... re-raising needs to play more a part of the game if you want to extract an edge in this game. Re-raising with people that you know will ultimately put a hand down, because you've got to get your edge somewhere, guys. This is the whole point of poker. You've got to get your edge somewhere.
Yeah, I think the only one thing I think you're doing here is I think you're presuming a bit too much, and the thing is with the sit and go, it's got all different stages to it.
Yeah, sure.
And just because people might be playing one stage of it correctly doesn't mean to say that they're going to continue playing correctly as time goes on.
I completely agree.
Because as each individual situation changes, it might be that that individual does not know how to play with 423 chips.
That's fine. I understand that you're going to get edge in certain situations, but you surely want to maximise your edge in all situations, don't you?
You want to maximise your edge, but if... Oh, we've got a situation here. Jack 10, you're in the cut-off, and everyone else is passed. So this is interesting. You see some blinds lying around there. And what did you bet? 370?
Yes. I actually typed that in.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Perfect actually wrote in the chat box,
I think...
You think you should call here, don't you?
No, it's interesting. He's got two. It's a difficult situation for him, but yes, he hasn't got much to call here, has he? 210 was it to call? But the call's probably not right. He probably has to come over the top if he plays anyway. Maybe that's a better play. I'm just wondering there. I think you'd more or less calculated how much you had left.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
think you'd left an amount of chips where your next move obviously was all in, And of course, if that came off, then you were back in shape again.
Poor old Johan here thinks that I'm tapping him up. I'm not. This is a very much cards-based decision.
And that one looks more like a hand because you've just done a classical bet, and you've also, that leaves you even more than you'd left yourself before. If the one before looked suspicious, possibly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'm you know, how can I say? Because when you're on the inside of something, all you can do is what you can do.
Yeah,
I'm
not against what you've done.
No. I
think
know
it's
you're not,
fine.
mate. And if you are, I want you to say so.
No, I'm not. I think it's fine. I like the way that you've. Well, listen, you haven't had much, and you've got yourself back to virtually starting level. So that's great.
Yes, in terms of what have I been doing, commentating on my play, all I can say is, you know, I feel I've had really no cards, and if I've waited for hands, I would have nothing now. I'd have just been blinded away. So it's been a game of decisions for me, but I think I make a couple of bad decisions coming up. I don't think all my decisions have been good so far, but I certainly make a couple of bad ones. So DVN with the queens, and for old Fermanagh with not much to speak of.
Wow.
But, he feels he can bully DVN. He sees, he senses weakness, and unfortunately he senses wrongly.
And bye-bye.
On this occasion. But
so.
And there am I with my favourite hand, ace-2. No, I already hate it.
Caspar's equity ticked up a little bit there with the demise of a player. Yes, you've got a problem there now because your big blind, chappy, DVN, has got chipped up, which is restrictive for you.
Yep. Yep. Got all sorts of problems here, mate. I just don't like it. I just don't like not being dominant at this stage in a tournament. I don't like having the same amount of money as everyone else. I feel that I haven't done my job up until now. Don't get me wrong, James, you know, you play in 1,000 sit and goes, you're going to be in all sorts of different situations. All I'm saying is I like to have more money at this stage. I like to have played such a game that has accumulated more money or knocked me out. But when I've got that money, I can let other people start to implode. And I think I just get my timing ever so slightly wrong in this.
Personally, I think 1835 chips and only 6 players left, I think you're fine. I would play a sit and go from that situation very happily.
I would have swapped with you if you wanted me. If you don't know, you said.
Oh, and look at this. And the blinds are up, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I like this bet very much now because it's 163.20. Each round's costing you 480 chips. You only had 1,800.
Yeah.
I'm in full agreement with the play. I would have done exactly the same.
Okay.
Even though it was king-queen.
Even though it was the old king-queen.
So we'd have got the same play from me.
DVN, just calling with the queens.
Ah, and that's quite cute. Got chips there. And I quite like this from DVN.
Okay.
Because DVN here can tempt them into a battle. And he knows that he's not dead if he loses the battle. It doesn't matter. I like it. I like this a lot.
And
he'd have preferred to fight Johan, who had less of a risk for him. But still, I like the whole thing.
And now Sekhmet has done exactly what he wants. He's raised, but he hasn't raised enough necessarily to mean that he'll call the next
and there
bet.
we go.
But you fancy that all in, you like that. Will Sekhmet lay this
I think
down?
that's enough to take now. I'm happy enough there. He's taken a bit more money. And look at that, he's over 5,000. Yeah, I think that's quite nice.
Okay.
I don't think he needs to be over tricky. There's bound to be, you can well think there's overcards there.
And the deck
I'm not against if he really wanted, but I think it's fine. I think he's taken that down. He's starved them. He's really got himself in very nice shape here. He's a dominant factor. There's 2 people with chips and there's 4 people who haven't got chips. So, but the blinds are big and there's not too much rest when you're at 163.20.
With 6 players.
And that's why I said, if you put me in a situation there, that sit and go at that stage with 6 players left, with 1800, it's fine. Because you're just coming up to where the blind is so big now. You don't have to get too lucky to win. There's not too many things. It is becoming more crapshootish. The very fact that there's 2 people miss, the deeper you're in the tournament, the more value people missing from the starting field are.
Explain that, James.
Right. The deeper you get into the tournament, i.e. the higher the blind structure has become, the more value every missing player is to you as a survivor.
Why?
Being a survivor, it's better. Because the game is now, there's 6 of you there.
Yes.
In fact, the thing is, is it more of a crapshoot now?
Yes. Okay.
So therefore, this favours you now. It doesn't matter that you haven't got as much play. Well, there's not much play for anyone.
But I want play because I'm going to be arrogant and say that I'm going to be able to outplay them. Yes, no offence to anyone on the table, that's the attitude you've got to have.
Equity, yes, you'd like that in a perfect world. You'd like to say, let's get the blinds back down to the starting level.
So we're not comparing this to a situation in which I have more play. You're comparing it to a situation in which those 2 players were present at the table.
What I'm saying is dead bodies are worth more to you.
Okay.
The deeper the structure you go in.
I got you. Yeah. I've got it now.
Yeah.
That's quite a complex concept.
It is a complex, and that's why people, because in fact I had a thing with Dr. Tom there, he's saying about, there's not so much equity with people missing. But it's the point of how many people, where you are in the stage of the tournament which matters. And you want to see empty seats there. And if you see 5 empty seats, and even though your chips have gone down to 1100, you're not in bad shape.
Right.
This is an equitable situation.
Okay.
Because it's not beyond the realms of imagination to get into the money, whatever your chip stack is, because it multiplies so quickly. The very fact is, because taking down the blinds is actually 1/4 of your starting stack.
Yeah.
That's it. There's the answer.
Yeah. So Mr. Perfect's going to push with his ace-queen here. And I'm running out of time. And I'll tell you what, we're running out of time before we have to go to a break.
Oh, no. Well, make sure you freeze this. Are you going to have this frozen? The gallery guys say yes.
Just like...
It's going to be deep frozen.
The men from Del Monte. Chugin has Queen Jack. He's made top pair, but Mr. Perfect is in stronger shape. I can see Chugin check raising here.
This is going to be a cryogenic sit and go, unfrozen after the break.
Chugin moves all in. Mr. Perfect calls. Chugin needs a jack. And he gets it.
Wowee.
Poor old Mr. Perfect.
Mr. Perfect. Still alive, however.
And that puts Chugin on 8,000 chips, and that's really where you want to be at this stage.
Look at the blinds now. 320, 640.
Absolutely. Now, I forget what Sekhmet does here. Maybe he takes the decision away to me. Right, and that's what I think. I should have moved there.
What did you have there,
I had 5-4 suited. That's my big mistake. That's my absolute crucial big mistake, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I really think so. I think in order to win sit and goes, and I thought that before I saw their cards. It's
against
not a
the guy who's got you covered in chips, Chugin.
Yeah, I really believe so because
I don't agree. What fold? You've got no fold equity.
Oh,
against
you
Chugin.
have. You have.
He's got 7,000 chips.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. He doesn't want to go to battle with me for 2,000. Of course he would. With the vast majority of hands. The fact that he had an ace, I don't know that. We're not playing the results, James.
No,
We're
I'm not
playing
saying
the
the
long
results.
term.
I don't think once he's decided. Oh, actually, he's on the beg your pardon. He's on the small blind.
He's on the small blind.
Okay. No, beg your pardon. Sorry, no. I think you're right.
Do you know what we're going to do, James? This is incredibly tense. You know how on EastEnders, you know when it goes do 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 do.
Yeah.
We're going to do the same.
Okay.
Because we're not going to show you the crucial hand until after the break.
No, I think you're right.
Thank you. That's what I've got to do, I think.
Yes, I think you're right.
I think that's honestly what makes the difference.
I was forgetting he was on the small blind. Yes, I think you're right.
He was on the big blind. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, folks, we've got to go. We are going to come back, see my crucial hand, discuss more about decision and probability trees, and finish off this discussion of what is gambling. See you soon. we're still continuing our discussion about whether I should have played that 5-4 suited. And James observed something very interesting, which I observed at the time, which does change this, which is that the big blind was all in. Can we go back to it, guys? Is it possible to rewind? Can we? No, we can't.
He was in for 520.
He was in for 520, that's right. So that was what I thought. I remember at the time thinking, he can't fold. I'm in that all-in situation, so the other guy's got to fold. And do you know, it's interesting, we talk about the subconscious. It must have been subconsciously that I thought, so actually the small blind isn't in the situation of wondering what the big blind would do, because I didn't go through that process consciously, and that was why I folded. So therefore I do think that was the right thing to do.
So the small blind had 320 in, the small blind.
Yeah.
You had about 1,800 and something.
Yeah.
So it's now going to cost... The small blind knows that the guy's there just because he has to be there, no choice.
Yeah.
He knows that you might be just trying to take advantage of the situation, so don't have to have so much.
That's right.
So it's only going to cost him 1,500, and he's actually got 7,000 chips. He's chip rich.
Yeah.
His chips are worth less money. So I think his... Basically, it's a hard decision. His calling window is obviously far bigger than normal.
That's right.
Because of the breakdown, because we've looked at everything here. He's there because he has to be. Cass, well capable of trying to nick chips here. I've got a lot of chips. It's not the end of the world if I lose this.
It's all about, I mean, when it comes to decision trees, the question is how many hands would he call with? In other words, increasing the likelihood of him calling, and how many hands would he fold with? And with the big blind still live, he has two more reasons to fold. Number one, this big blind could kill me. He could have a great hand. And number two, why would I risk my chips when I can let the big blind do the work? I can sit here and let these two piddly stacks fight each other out. They're two different reasons to fold. With a big blind all in, he has two fewer reasons to fold, and therefore he's more likely to call. And for conscious and subconscious reasons, my mind goes, you know what, my fold equity's gone down so much that 5-4 suited is not enough to make this move.
And there's one more thing there, is of course, is your 4-5 suited against a random hand is of course underdog.
Yeah, of course, of course.
So therefore, you are actually going into a situation here where... Well,
it's all about fold equity.
Yes.
It's got to be. I mean, he can call and I can still win.
If he folds, but you still need to win.
Yeah, that's right. No, but what I'm saying is, let's say, well, if and when he calls, right, let's say I win 1 in 3 times.
No, I'm talking about if he passes.
I know.
Yeah, sorry, yes,
so what I'm saying is, if he calls, I'm going to win 1 in 3 times. And therefore, he's got to be folding 80% of the time for me to start making, you know, a profit on this hand in terms of fold equity.
Yeah, you're not... If he calls, you're not winning 1 in 3 times, I think.
I am if he's got ace-king.
What, against 2 people?
No, 1 person. I'm just talking about the one. Yeah, of course. I understand. I'm just talking about the one.
Yeah, you win because you win. This 4-5 wins less against 2 opponents.
That's right. Yeah, but I'm not. 1,400
you've got a side
of my
pot.
chips.
Yes, you've got a side pot.
1,400 of my chips is not 2.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So I'm saying outright though, you win outright. But this affects the whole lot. It's a very interesting situation. Very interesting situation. Good. If your hand goes up a notch, if you get a hand with a slightly better hand here. Then I think this alters it.
I don't think it does, mate. I think it's all about fold equity. Okay, it does. But incrementally, the biggest decision is how likely is he to fold. That's what I think.
Yeah.
I think the hand is fine, but of course, if it goes up to ace-king, it changes it radically. It's a no-brainer all in. But it's got to change. The hand has got to change radically for my decision to change radically. What the real key was exactly what you observed, which is the big blind's all in. That's what changes the situation, I think. And if the big blind wasn't all in, I think, as you said before we went to the break, I would have been right to make that all-in move. And that, I think, is the difference. I think that move is the difference between winning and losing tournaments. If the big blind is all in, you've got to take that chance. Do we know that he's going to fold? No, of course not. He could have a pair of aces. Do we know he's going to fold? No, of course not. He could call with 8-3. But on average, I've been watching him throughout the tournament. He's not a loose player. He's going to fold a lot of cards. Anyway, listen, folks, we need to get to that tournament and see how it finishes. Quite soon.
And here we are. And we're back there with Cass. Oh, just disappeared.
Yeah, so I had the small blind, I had 10-5, and the 7s raised it up, and so, right, so we only didn't see all that hand, but basically, folks, that is another key hand, because now all of a sudden, I've had 1,100. Did we miss out a hand?
I think we must have missed out a hand, because...
So here I am with 8s. And
not much choice there, mate. You've got to push with those 8s in that situation. It's a great hand. Oh, the gods of poker are being cruel. You've come up against American Airlines.
8. No. Pooh.
And poor Caspar's been bubbled.
I have, and I think they all played very, very well. I have no complaints. I think it was an interesting sit and go, wasn't it, for the reasons that I said?
It is. Well, let's see the end of it now. We've got...
You like seeing the end of them, don't you, James?
Well, I think now we've reached the last 3. We should.
No, I'm happy to see the end of it.
Just to see what happens here. And we've got Sekhmet with 1800 there in the last 3. Whacks it all in. Quite correctly, the blind's so big. And Jugan there has got a flush with the jack, but he'd also hit the pair with the 8s, and that's down to 2.
Cool. All happening quickly. I don't know who wins this right now, but we know that Chugan is.
I think a correct pass there from Chugan on the small blind out of position there. Funny enough, he's got enough chips that he can actually be a little bit, tiny bit selective, but he's got a pair here. It's likely his favourite. Let's have a look. He's on the already got 640 in. I think maybe I might just try to finish him off. Yep. I think that's fine play.
And if you're a DVN with that kind of money in the pot?
A tough one. A very tough one. I
mean, it's difficult to put him on a pair of 4s and know that you're a 50-50 shot, isn't it?
Oh, very, very difficult. Yes, I think.
And we're more likely to put him on a larger ace.
Yes, or a pair bigger than your kicker. Yeah, and there he goes. I think that was fine by Chugan there. I think he was right. As I said, I would have done the same with his pair there. I'd have asked a question there just to see if there was there might have been a tad of fold equity there with it. If not, I think there's a good chance that I'm small favourite with the pair. I'd have made his aggressive play because he had enough chips. Again, I am prepared to take far more risks when I've got more chips because the chips aren't worth as much. And that might either weaken him or finish the whole deal. So, a good opportunity.
Good stuff. Thanks, James. Let's go straight to an email from DVN1, who just came second, who says, I would just like to say that I'm very happy that Cass didn't put me on the ace. Remember this was when we both had ace-jack?
Yes.
Earlier on in the tournament. He says, do you remember the hand? This was my intention. My original bet with 3 of us in the pot was to search for any strength. I had hit top pair, but didn't particularly like my jack kicker. With only Cass calling and the flop another ace, or the turn, another ace, I thought with trip aces a pot bet would have made you think I was trying to steal. With regards to the river card, the flush draw and Caspar's final bet, I thought there was enough in the pot and decided there was no way Caspar would be chasing a flush draw on the amount that had been bet in the previous hand, so I felt a flat call was okay at the end for the sake of being out-kickered, or in case Cass had hit a full house. I would also like to say in the last few weeks I've tried to be more aggressive by using the reversed bluff betting patterns of betting with trips and pushing people off pots when they try to represent trips on paired boards. It's working well at the moment, but wondering when people will catch on to what I do. Great show. You P&L presenters have a fantastic wealth of knowledge and have taught me a lot. It's nice, isn't it?
That's a lovely email. Thank you very much.
Any thoughts on any of that, James? It's a lovely email.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like the way he's gone back through the hand and looked at his thinking. The one thing there is with his thinking, and he really said he had a good idea of where you were in the hand, I think he actually had the window open there to put the raise in against you. He's more or less like, it's unlikely you've got the house there, really.
Shut up. Shut up.
He'd said he didn't think you were on a flush draw.
Moving on.
No?
You look all offended.
No.
You think I'm offended? No, I don't care. Yes, possibly.
If he was that, if he that time.
Sorry, you're serious about it, and I'm joking.
Yeah. If he was that certain,
Yes. You think he should have raised?
Well, if he's certain you're not in the flush,
He's
blah blah blah.
not certain. He's relatively certain. It's all relative.
And if he's worried about kickers, maybe.
I think it would have been madness to raise me there.
Yeah,
I do.
you'd have passed.
No. I think it's madness in the other opposite direction. He's only got ace-jack, for God's sakes. Well, there's no way if I was in his position with ace-jack and I had exactly the same hand that I'd have raised him if he'd bet 200 at me.
All I'm saying is if he felt so sure about the situation, if I felt as sure about the situation as him, then I would put a raise in against the small bet.
I don't believe you.
I'm not certain I'd have been as sure about the situation as he was.
Well, that's good. Okay. Right, listen, we're going to get to a multi-table, but I just want to ask your opinion on this, because this is about your commentary on something whilst it's still fresh in the mind.
Right.
Just wanted to ask you about a comment you made on a hand I played in a cash game. This is from John.
Oops.
I had Jack 8 with a Jack 10, 9, 8 board. Do you remember this? I think I remember it as I was playing my sit and go. My opponent had King Queen.
Yeah.
So he had the straight 8, 9, 10, Jack Queen, King. When a 4 of clubs arrived on the river, I put in a small bet.
Yes.
You said that this was not good, as it, quotes, did not fit the story.
Yes.
My logic was that he had played the hand as if he had the flush draw. I put in a value bet, or represented one, to see where I was. If he had the flush draw, I would have expected him to not pay my value bet if he had nothing, but pay it if he had something less than my 2 pairs. If he had the bigger straight, which I put him on the turn, he would raise. Oh, this is appropriate, isn't it? Exactly the same situation. And I would fold, only losing $3, rather than being faced with a difficult decision about whether to call a bigger bet to a possible bluff. Well, this is the blocker bet question, isn't it? So, how serendipitous. What do you think of this logic, please? I think we already know what you think, don't we?
With a flop of 8, 9, 10 Jack, as that's scary to you, it's also going to be scary to your opponent. So therefore, if you check, you could well be just checking because you've got your straight if your opponent hasn't got the straight. I don't think he's going to be bluffing you out of it there anyway. It's just too difficult. It's not.
So he's not going to be bluffing out, but he is going to be bluffing me out of it.
No, 8, 9, 10 Jack only needs a 7 or a Queen to make a straight. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is, these terrifying flops here are terrifying both ways. To have waited on for the 4 coming, he could have already had the straight possibly. I just don't think it really fits the storyline. Because I think with that flop there, people would be frightened of a straight getting bigger if they've got the bottom end of the straight, or even if they've got the top end of the straight. I think we'd have seen something from him before then. So I just don't think the 4 fits the storyline. And I don't think it needs a stopper bet there, because I don't think the other guy is particularly going to be bluffing into that pot. Because it's the sort of pot where someone might check with the straight and say, come on, bet into me. So that, I think, is reason for a stopper bet isn't justified there.
Cool, excellent.
What do you think?
No, I agree. I agree, yeah, great. Okay, folks, let's get to the final of our multi-table tournament. Maestro, please. Blue and green.
Wow, and here we go. Final time. Have you got the prize money, Cass?
I have indeed.
So we know what we're playing for here.
Let me get back to it. So, how many players have we got left? Just 4?
Just 4.
Okay, so they're guaranteed a 4th place of $106 for their $10 buy-in. 3rd place is $140. 2nd place is $224. And 1st place is $336.
Which is good for $10.
$10.
Wow, 8-3, what a nice flop. 2 pairs. Puts in the raise. And the stakes are now such, 800, 1600, that flat raises do tend to mean more than normal. Okay, it's all in from Morrison. raise and the small blind from Morrison. Well, we've got a massive chip leader here, haven't we? No, 81,000 rather. Flush draw and a pair against nothing. Bet 3,200. Whoops, and we've got a big raise. Makes it 16,000, which is virtually setting Saf all in. I say that because he'd only have 9,000 left. It'd be hard to imagine that it wasn't all going in if he calls. Wow. And gets him to put it down. A very aggressive play from our chip leader there. Using his muscle, the power of the chips. And we've had 3 times the big blind from Morrison to 4,800. This is an interesting situation here with our big chip leader and the other 3 people very evenly matched. Chip leader just calls the raise with his pair of 4s. Well, it's not too bad a flop. He's got a small flop there. He needs a 6 for a straight. And there's been check, check. Oh, and he's checked again. I'm surprised the way he's been playing. I thought we'd have seen a bet from him. Well, he must just check it down. He does. And he's gone to 95,000 now. So he's got over half the chips, a very useful situation. Now, he's found Big Slick. Can he siphon off some more chips from his 3 opponents? Well, this is crunch time here. I'm sure he's going to set him in. Be happy for him to pass, I would think, in his mind. But, of course, we can see he's about 11 to 4 on favourite. Yep, he set him all in with ace-king. And got him to pass. So he's sliced some more chips off his opponents. And he now breaks the 100,000 barrier. And Morrison pushes ace-8. And it does feel like we've got this little side battle going on here between our lower stacks.
Now, you said something very interesting when we were last on, James, about this situation. That if you're in the big stack in this situation, there's no pressure on you to call bets. So a lot of people email in saying, you know, when would you, how do you play a big stack in these situations? Well, in this specific situation, when you're a big stack and you've got 2 or even 3 very small stacks, you can keep raising, shouldn't you? Because they just don't want to knock each other out,
yes.
Or they don't want to get knocked out because they're so keen for one of the others to knock themselves out and then to go up through the money rankings.
Yeah, I think the big stack should starve the smaller stacks of oxygen.
Right.
And keep on slithering chips off them.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the end...
Is this why you're called the poker poet?
In the end, he's already got more than half the chips in the tournament anyway. So if the 3 of them join troops, they're still underdog against him.
Yep.
So as he slithers more chips off them, he's now creeping further ahead and making himself a bigger favourite for when it ends up a heads-on encounter, heads-up encounter. And he can pressurise because he can see, well, he doesn't want to go out just yet because he's got more chips than him. So he can now see more poker situations purely because of their little side battle taking place. But he wants to be betting, and he doesn't particularly want to be calling. If there's calling going on, he can just let them call with each other if needs be. But when there's not much happening there, he can now use his muscle to say, well, I don't think you'll want to fight this time. Thanks very much. I've taken another big and small blind off you both. Now fight with this amount of chips between yourselves. So he's actually given them, keeps on taking chips from their game.
Right.
It's like the big monster is getting a handful of chips and said, now fight for this much.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, now fight for this much. Well, you've not left us much to fight for. I know, that's the idea. Now we'll have, let's play heads up now. How many have you got? Oh, 40,000. Well, not bad. So I like him to starve them. And so he's basically not, he's just controlling. I think he can do that well.
Right.
Because if he did nothing, when he's got the big stack, he knows he's going to be into the final favourite anyway.
Yeah.
That's he's already got that,
Yeah.
more or less locked up in the bag. So he doesn't need to jeopardise that particularly.
No.
Because if you said, well, go and try and knock them all out yourself, he could actually have lots of accidents along the way there. But in his threatening, no risk, take it down, that's what he wants to be doing, I think, all the time.
Yes.
But I'm talking about a situation where basically you've got one, this is a classic where it's 1 against 3, where the one has got more than half the chips.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, as soon as this battle starts to even out,
Yes.
well, it's a different story. Now it's more classical poker.
Yes. But I mean, the whole aim of what we're talking about is to not even it out, isn't it? We're trying to get them to.
What I'm saying is, with Morrison goes all in, the big stack doesn't have to be a hero with substandard cards.
Yeah.
You say, well, go and let one of the other ones, or well done, you've won the blind off the other chap.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
Then when he comes, he'll say, right, thank you, I've got the blinds, now you three are fighting for less chips. That's basically what he does. He's playing cat and mouse with them a little bit.
Yes.
Until, of course, he finds suitable cards.
Yeah.
Now fine, say, yes, okay, I don't mind going heads up against you with this hand.
Yeah.
Let's play.
Yeah.
So he picks his moments. He's like the good matador who sort of, kills the bull with one stab,
Yes.
but weakens the bull. He picks his moments. So he's actually, this is a bit like a bullfight. Yes, he's weakening the bull all the time, taking the blinds, until eventually, yes, pocket queens, thank you. Bing.
If you lay another metaphor on me tonight, James.
Oh, right, sorry.
No, I like him. Don't worry, it's good.
It seemed to fit the bill.
It was a good one. I'm just understanding why they call you Poker Poker. I haven't done shows with you for quite a while, So there we are. I wonder if he's listening to you. He's getting jiggy, and he's doing exactly the right thing. And that's the interesting thing about Poker Night Live, of course. This situation may be on screen for a few more minutes yet, and they may actually still be playing and taking note of what you're saying. Just while we're watching this, interrupt me if anything fantastic happens on the screen, James.
No, he's...
Happening now. We've seen a raise and we've seen a button call. What do you think of that?
I don't
James?
like that one.
No,
this is
me.
purely against what I think he should be
Exactly.
doing. We can see favoured it. It doesn't matter. This is not the big hand. He could have let the others just... Either someone gets weaker there, he could just let them fight. This wasn't his moment. He is actually just gambling with this one. He's got position.
Call on the flop. He's got position. Yeah, exactly. What's he waiting for?
Okay, he's played that fine there at the end. But I don't think he needed to play a guessing game that time. Because these players have been quite selective in their own way.
Interesting situation here. The suited connector versus the suited ace in the small blind. 2 small stacks. Let's see how this plays out.
Well, I'm aggressive as Morrison here.
And so is he. And Safa calls. I mean, that's an awful call, isn't it, James? you've got almost no money in your stack. You're raising or folding at this stage in the tournament. You're not calling with 6-7.
I'd rather, and he's left it behind. I'd rather, obviously, when that's come along, I'd rather have saved it for a betting situation.
You're raising or folding, and basically you're folding.
Yeah, and I don't want to be calling just like you. I prefer to be a better than a caller.
Well, it comes back to the point that we made the other night. You know, people see these calls made in the final table of the WPT when they got 50 big blinds. He's got 3 times that bet in his stack.
Well done, the big blind. Didn't want to be a hero there, and he put that down. And that's what he should be doing there. He shouldn't make it life easy for these small stacks here. You can see them. We can see them just being starved. They're wilting away.
But then surely he should be raising in that situation, shouldn't he? If he's going to play Jack 10 from the small blinds, he should raise with it.
Yes, if he's going to play, yes.
Because it's hard for ZXN. Unless ZXN gets G and comes over the top, and that's a good play from ZXN, but effectively.
But now this is again no place for heroics. Now the guy's shown he's got something fine.
Yeah.
Just leave it alone.
Yeah.
No rewards for being heroics here or whatever, because the thing is, the small stacks, it is actually harder to get rid of them now if they're a little bit in the pot, because they might just say, oh goodness, go on then, and put the rest in.
Yeah.
So you've actually probably got to find a real hand to finish them off.
Yes. And on this occasion, Morrison does have a real hand. I would favour the all-in, as does Morrison here. Unfortunately, 150 doesn't actually have anything to call with, but Morrison will take down the pot to make 32,000.
And Saf there is in big trouble. And was on the big blind, got 7,600 left. And now chip leaders made it 10. And that's quite cute, actually, because there's a good chance he's going to be ending up against basically the big blind who could have anything. And he's done exactly that. He's squeezed Morrison out of it, and that's good play. I like that. Again, lovely. He's taken another 3,000 out the game. Saf goes down to 7-6. But that was good opportunism there. He had a reasonable hand. And now he's actually got quite a good hand. And he'll certainly fight here. And of course, this is a fine hand to fight with, but Saf doesn't want to know. He'd have definitely fought with his ace-queen against the desperado. Oh, King Jack.
Takes it down.
Ooh.
Doubles through.
Doubles through.
And he needed it. He's certainly not posing any great problems at the moment. Scott Clark, on the subject of gambling, which has been one of the concerns for tonight, says, "Hi guys, great show as always. I was wanting to ask this question for a while because it's been doing my head in. I've just watched the news and listened to people who think about poker as a gambling game. Presumably there must be some story pertaining to it right now. And I keep saying it's not gambling to a good player, but they just do not change their mind about the game. I'm sick of the news putting online poker against blackjack and roulette. So what do you do? Just keep banging your head against the wall or what?" I personally would never allow the news to cause concussion.
I think you're not a bad judge, Cass.
But it's certainly an interesting subject. It's created a number of very interesting emails tonight. The debate will rage on and on, folks. I mean, it's my job to go out there and talk to people about this subject, and believe you me, you do get as many different opinions as you people you ask, and exactly the same about luck as well, which is what I was saying to James earlier on. It's these terms are, I wouldn't actually be arrogant enough to say that I understand them and other people don't. I'm just saying they are ambiguous and interpreted in many different ways.
What is the difference between England and Germany and America regarding poker?
I can't think of anything with regards to that. England doesn't allow speech play, which is silly. Germany, I've never even heard of in a poker context. I can't say anything informative. You tell me, James.
America says that poker is a game of skill.
Ah, yes.
And England and Germany say it's a game of luck.
That's right. That's right. It's strictly speaking, there's not America that says it's a game of skill. California says it's a game of skill. In America, it's a state-by-state situation.
Yeah, but en masse they say it's a game of skill. That's why they tax it.
But they don't. Okay.
They attack. Cool, they do.
They tax the Indian casinos.
No, they tax poker wins.
But fine. But poker. Ah, right. You mean professional players? The
Yeah.
IRS taxes it. Yeah. Okay.
Because they treat it as a game of skill.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I do apologise. Take it back.
But England and Germany say it's a game of luck.
Okay. Well, then hang on. There's a fundamental discrepancy at the heart of American policy then, because they may say it's a game of skill at IRS level, but at state level, it's considered to be gambling because it's still illegal outside Indian casinos in 48 states. It's grouped together with gambling.
Yeah, no, it's a muddled situation. We just lost Morrison there.
Yeah, he had a pair of queens and he was rivered with a 6.
Just been taken over by Sainsbury's. Left Cass speechless there.
I did. I didn't know what to say. I had no follow-up. It's that moment in the office where they're thinking about another pudding-based joke.
Oh, the chap from the office, he was in Confetti.
Yes, Martin Freeman. Did you see Confetti?
Yes.
It was produced by a good friend of mine. What did you think? You can say what you want.
The friend I went with thought it was very funny.
Okay.
And laughed out loud.
You less so.
I less so, but I thought it was a good idea, and I thought it was quite entertaining, and probably not quite as funny as it could have been.
I think it's a fair comment. The Rob Webb. Oh, we just lost another player. Sorry, folks. We're talking about films. That's very irresponsible. I was on a pro night. That's the kind of thing I do with Michelle. So 150. Is very dominant at this stage as we enter the heads up. Collie Coleman, or as she's called Olivia Coleman now, and Rob Webb, who are in both Peep Show, and Olivia Coleman is also in Green Wing. I gave them their first parts in the Footlights, in the Cambridge Footlights, and they were the King and Queen. No, were they King and Queen? No, David Mitchell was the King, and Olivia Coleman was the Queen, and Rob Webb was the Prince in the Footlights pantomime that I produced. Just think, without me, there might have been no Peep Show. There would have been. I was a very small part of their lives.
I must admit, Confetti was quite a clever idea. The tennis couple were quite funny as well.
I think the wedding planners are really are excellent characters. They're the emotional ballast in the film. You don't believe that any of the others are in love, but you actually believe the wedding planners are in love.
Yeah. Well, I suppose. Yeah.
Do you believe the others are in love? I don't. That's for me is the weakness of the film.
Yeah, maybe. It
tries to have a feel-good ending without.
I think the tennis players weren't meant to be in love. It's more like sort of an arrangement anyway, wasn't it? But I also saw King.
King? Who's in King?
Goodness, you're going to get me on the name, but I know his character. I'm not sure the actor's name. He's very, very good though. Excellent, and it's a great film.
Who directed it?
I give in. I'll speak to the boys in the back. They might remember.
Boys in the back.
Simon, who directed it? I knew you would be.
They'll be IMDbing till their fingers drop off.
6, 9, 10. So there's 10 for our chip leader.
And the
150.
6.
And a 6. 2 pairs. Directed by James Marsh, Cass. There we go. 2 pairs. Are you aware of this, director?
I'm not.
Anyway, go and see the movie.
Okay. If you recommend it, I will.
Very well made.
Excellent.
And great music for it. The soundtrack just fits the bill. Raises it up, but trouble ahead. The comeback starts now. The slow dwell up is trip 2s. But the dwell up isn't going to make our chip leader do anything. He's got no connection with the flop. So it was an out-and-out bluff, not a semi-bluff. So there was no decision to be made. He's made up a small blind, and Z has clicked a 6.
Is that word unique to you, James, or is that part of common parlance in the European poker world? Clicked.
Goodness, it might be me.
Is it another metaphor?
It could be. Click the 6.
I've just never heard anyone else saying it, but then I don't frequent the Vic awfully much. It certainly wasn't a word in America.
Yeah. Does it fit or...?
Oh, it's good.
Well, he's certainly clawing his way back into this. Blinds are 1,500, 3,000. I've mentioned it before, but for those of you who haven't been with us before, in this software here, the small blind is out of position. The button has extra value here because he's got his big blind in there and position, which is huge. So therefore you can actually pass in the small blind more than normal.
Interesting hand here, James. 2 pairs versus the flush draw.
Ooh.
Did you like the call there, or do you think maybe the big stack should have used the deceptive power of the flat raise in that situation? Gaining a bit of fold equity and also deceiving in the event of the flush. I mean, at this stage, you're trying to just win the tournament, aren't you?
Probably.
Therefore, you want to create implied odds. Poor old Zed picks the wrong day to go up smoking.
Does he actually think he's got? I mean, I think I'd have probably just called if I was going to play it. I don't know whether I want to, because if I put the flat raise in, do you really want to see the re-raise from the guy there setting?
No, you're absolutely right.
So I don't want to like tease him and pinch him into attacking me. I'd say, well, come on, let me just see if I can hit this card. Because
if he checked you, would you have bet?
That's slightly different because now I think I've got my fold equity thinks, ooh, I think that's gone up a bit. So now that's a different scenario. But here I think, okay, I'll let sleeping dogs lie. This is enough. I don't want to suddenly niggle him.
Okay.
Because it feels like he's got a hand anyway, that he's decided. He's got a made hand. He's frightened I've got the flush draw.
See, it's interesting you say there that your fold equity's gone up, because I'm questioning whether you want the fold or whether what you really want is to make the flush and get the call. I'm wondering whether what we really want to do is, in this situation, win that tournament 1 out of 3 times. Yeah, but if you can win the tournament 1 out of 3 times, that's what you really want, isn't it?
A bit expensive there. The amount of money the guy had.
To win the tournament?
Yeah, if you lose it, you go underdog.
Yes.
That's
Not
why
if you lose it, you go underdog. You are an underdog, but you're going to win the tournament 1 out of 3 times.
I want to put my chips in when I've got the flush, like he did.
I agree. I'm not saying that you want to go all in. What I'm saying is your aim.
That's why I said I don't want to re-raise him, flat re-raising, because I'm niggling him into making the pot bigger.
And I agree with that. But what I'm saying is the purpose of my flat raise was so that it didn't look like that I had a flush.
I know that.
Yeah. So I'm trying to get the call. I'm just thinking, I don't want fold equity. What I want is to do whatever it takes for him to call me when I've got the flush. That's what I want.
Okay. Yes.
And that, if I'm writing in the chat box, or whether it's a betting pattern or whatever it is, I think that's what I really want, because I'm sitting there and I want to go 1 out of 3 times here. I want to be able to win it from this hand.
Yes. If that was the case, then you could just push it all in then. But I mean, I don't think that's right.
No.
It doesn't feel right to me.
Well, you don't, because if you push it all in, you're right. The reason why that doesn't feel right is because you get an awful lot of fold equity, and therefore you're not going to win 1 out of 3 times. You can, actually 2 out of 3 times you'll probably fold, and then 1 out of those 3 times, and then 2 out of... Yeah.
Oh no! If I thought no, I'm happy for people to pass there. He's gone.
I know you are. That's what I'm arguing with.
Yeah. But I don't think you said first of all you thought you put in a flat raise.
Yeah, I was just thinking whatever it takes to throw him off the concept that you might have a flush.
I definitely wouldn't do that.
Fine.
That is because I'm taking away a draw I've got, which has costed me no more money. And if I hit that in the latter stages of a tournament, there, I believe the guy's already got a hand. I think he's at least got probably top pair. I don't think he's got 2 pair, but Who knows what he's got? He might think I'm bluffing
Of course.
with the flush.
Yeah.
Who knows? So I don't worry about that. I just think, OK, let me just draw for this for no more. Because the last thing I want to do is to put this raise in, and now he re-raised me. I go, oh, God, look at that. Now I go underdog if I lose this. And I might be up against a bigger flush draw. I might be in a horrible situation. I don't know, lots of things.
OK. We've got a lot of emails, James, and I'd like to try and get through as many as possible, actually,
Right,
because there's some
let's get
fantastic
'em
stuff.
rolling.
So first of all, let's go to Illy, who revealed something about him that I've never knew before, despite having talked to him on the forums a lot. He says, hello, gents. Must admit, I've been dipping in and out of your show tonight, what with Crime Watch Update, which I'm really... You should be embarrassed, mate.
We weren't on there as well, were we?
On one channel. And Phil Helmuth doing his brains on high-stakes poker. The remote has been red hot. Happy with the Phil Helmuth, but... I was interested to catch bits of the discussion on gambling. Big subject, but I know your time is short, so I'll just pick on one little angle and keep it email brief. Very interested in James's statements regarding winning at sports betting, because as an ex-bookie, he's an ex-bookie. It used to be part of my job to stop people like James betting with us. I think it was Rob who said that a gambler couldn't or didn't have an edge in sports betting. As James pointed out, either by having more information than the guy making the odds or by shopping around different bookmakers, it was possible to develop an edge. Unfortunately, because bookmakers don't gamble, so there's that use of the word there, customers like James aren't welcome. And I've had to tell people that their wagers are no longer welcome, or at least not welcome in the areas of betting where I knew they were doing us damage. I believe similar action has been taken by casinos in the past against card counters on their premises. So, gambling, or more specifically the gaming industry, is the backdrop to this strange contract in which long-term, and this is crucial, long-term, one party is saying, I will hand over my money to you in the hope of winning. And the other party is saying, I will agree to continue to take your money, provided you don't win. That's absolutely right. He's very right. I mean, that's the irony of card counting with relationship with casinos.
For that as well.
I wonder if James has come across these wary bookmakers in his dealings, or whether the internet and the myriad opportunities that is provided means that he can bet to his heart's content without being a marked man. And can I just point out, because Illy is always correcting my grammar on the forums, it's not myriad of opportunities, it's just myriad opportunities. Check it out. Great show, etc. Brilliant 5 nights cast. Well done. Thank you very much indeed, mate. Very kind of you. James, what do you think?
Yeah, he's quite right. You do actually get stopped by bookmakers. I've been stopped by bookmakers. In fact, quite a few of the top 4 have said, no more, thanks.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
But one time was actually quite amusing, actually. One time I was actually doing a sort of a mathematical type of betting without any information apart from the market moves, a mixture with a bet exchange and taking prices. It was actually with horse racing. And basically I was looking for certain horses where there was value on the place part. So I was actually backing horses, laying off the win part because I could see the market was shortening, laying that off at a profit or coming level and keeping the place part because I thought there was value in it.
Right.
With this one bookmaker who was actually probably slightly slower changing their prices, which was good, or just not too fast, it was fine for me to use them. I had this amazing, it was a good run, but also quite frustrating, because these ones I was backing for place value actually started to win time after time.
Right.
You know, and I had some big chunky winners. And if you look down the list of 12 races I'd done, there'd be winners all along so consistently. So in the end, they just stopped me betting. And they must have thought I was like a horse racing genius, of which I'm not. I hardly can remember a horse's name. All I was doing was something actually quite mathematical. But they thought I was getting amazing information, but I wasn't. So I'm saying it's quite ironical that they should stop me for that reason.
And isn't there an issue with poker sites? I mean, if someone is making supernormal profits for, I don't know what the period is, then they, Poker Manager will phone you up and contact you in some way and talk to you about the possibility of being a bot and that kind of thing. I mean, I've heard this on emails a couple of times.
Well, as you know, I'm connected with a poker site, and that's certainly not the case. I'll tell you what I do. I pray that all the people who play on our site win. Please win. And if they play badly, I think I want to go round to the house and help them, because if you win, they're happy and they're going to keep on playing.
Sure, just to clarify, what James means by that is, of course, poker is normally a zero-sum game in the sense of if one person's winning, another person's losing. But if James's site is part of a network where there's 60,000 players,
yes. So I would love people on our skin,
his skin to win and beat people from other skins.
And I seriously would. I'd say I'd love every one of them to be a winner. That'd be the perfect for us. Obviously.
Absolutely.
But no, I don't believe they
Oh, it definitely has happened. I'm saying different networks will have different policies. It's definitely happened.
Okay. The network would slightly, I think, okay, to be fair, you could see that where a network could worry if one player was like sort of gobbling up every player in sight.
It's basically, if your profits are super normal over a period of time, then it's, you know, is there collusion going on here in some form?
That's all, yeah, they're very protective about collusion, which is fine,
which is
I
good.
think is very good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like security checks at airports. Folks, don't complain. You want it. You don't want a bomb on your plane. Email from Damo, aka Crimson King. Hey guys, sometimes I feel that I play Ace King wrong during the middle stages of an MTT. I'm going to be honest with you at this stage, folks. I'm going to ask James the answer to this question because it's a constant source of frustration for me as well. Usually at this stage of the tournament, I have a slightly above average size chip stack. Great. If a standard tight aggressive opponent raises from early or middle position, I will call with Ace King. And if I hit on the flop, I will bet out, or if I miss on the flop, but my opponent checks to me on the flop, I will bet out. So he'll make a continuation bet if he's checked too. However, should I be raising a tight aggressive player pre-flop with this hand? If so, I'll be in danger of wasting a potential third of my stack in doing so unless my pre-flop re-raise is all in. How do you two play Ace King in the middle stages of an MTT? Before James answers this, let me just say this. I tend to play the way that he's proposing, and I'm beginning to feel that I should play more like the way that he does at the moment. In other words, I should slow down with Ace King, because I play Ace King quite fast.
You tend to play...
I tend to re-raise with Ace King.
Okay,
I tend to play it quite fast and aggressive. And I find that, you know, at the end of the day, it is a drawing hand. You turn it into a premium hand heads up, but it's not a great premium hand because a pair of twos is still a small favourite over it. So what do you think, James?
Right, I think the answer is we're going to look at this and sort of dissect it a bit more.
Okay.
One, this is a situation where you've got Ace King in position. You're in good position. The thing we should look at is basically how are we with how many chips have we got? Because as Caspar just let slip there, it actually isn't a hand, it's actually a drawing hand. Well, you can only afford to play drawing hands if you've got enough chips to be allowed to play drawing hands. The other point is that Ace King generally, its forte is that it's a very good aggressor's type of hand. It's good for raising, it's good for re-raising. The reason being is that if it does get called, there's only a couple of nightmare hands, aces and kings. So therefore, I do actually instinctively like raising with it. If I'm going to play it, slow play it and just call with it, I then want to be well chipped up so I can now just play it. The only way I would do that would be when I was in position so that I have got the opportunity to push the guy off the hand if I believe that he has missed, in which case I think he mentioned that there. But to me, it's a matter of how many chips I've got. If I'm a little bit short on chips, then I'm far more likely... the shorter I am on chips, but still enough to get someone to pass, the more likely I am to be aggressive with it and try and capture fold equity with it.
Good stuff. Okay, now listen, there's two emails here from DVN1. I'm really sorry, DVN. They're about multi-table tournaments, and to be fair, James and I did cover them at length at the beginning of this show, and we also covered them at the beginning of our last show, didn't we, when we were talking about payout structure?
Yeah.
So if you can, I don't know, watch the beginning of this show tomorrow when it's on, maybe if you can get hold of Sunday night show from someone. I want to have one last quick email. We've got just over a minute left, James, from Olaf. He says, hello, Cass and Jimmy. It's quite familiar, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't like Jimmy.
Don't like Jimmy.
Sorry.
Don't do that again. I wanted to ask you something that actually came up about a minute ago. It's a long time ago now. When I have a very strong hand, I almost always bet out on the river straight out. For example, if I play a draw out of position and make it on the river, if my opponent has bet on all streets before, I never have the courage to check to him on the river. Should I sometimes try checking my strong hand on the river out of position to make him bet again? What do you think, James? Do you ever use this play?
Yes, I think you've got to vary all plays, basically. I think if you're actually in a game where you're with the same opponents for a long time, you have to vary your game, because otherwise, if you always do one thing, it doesn't take them too long to work out what you're doing. And that's the point. Yeah,
great stuff. Listen, folks, we're coming to the end of my 5 shows straight. When are you next on?
I am next on... Ding, 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 ding... Saturday.
Don't have this much time, James. I'm next on the 30th. James is on Saturday, so do join us then, and of course join tomorrow for more Poker Night Live. See you very soon. Take care, folks. Thanks.